We'd like to call to order this public hearing on resolution number 6 on proposed amendments to the economic provisions of the Constitution. This is a continuation of our hearing a few days ago on educational institutions. So we'll continue on that. And first, we'd like to acknowledge our guests present from the public and the private sectors. We have from our national government agencies. We have Commission on Higher Education Chairperson Dr. Prospero de Vera III. Morning, sir. DOLE, our Department of Labor and Employment Undersecretary Felipe Egargo Jr. Department of Education Assistant Secretary Francis Bringas. Morning. From the TechVoc Education and R&D Research and Development Institutions. From Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology, Chancellor Alizedni Ditucalan. Morning. From UP Los Baños, Chancellor Jose Camacho. Morning po. The OST Philippine Science High School System Deputy Executive Director Rod Alan De Lara. From the Government Academy Industry Network Incorporated or GAIN Executive Director Dr. Genevieve Ledesma Laurel. From the International Rice Research Institute of the Philippines Senior Counsel Attorney Eugeniano Perez. And the TUP or Technological University of the Philippines Representative Attorney Christopher Mortel. And also from our other government agencies, the DTI Philippines Trade Training Center Executive Director Nayli Diliera. TESDA Legal Officer Attorney Lani Salazar. Bureau of Immigration Senior Immigration Officer Anthony Cabrera. Yeah, morning to you. Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, PCCI Vice President and Semiconductor and Electronics Industries in the Philippines Foundation or SAPI Chairman Ferdinand Perry Ferrer. Morning, sir. National Scientist Dr. Carmencita Padilla. Ma'am, why are you there? You want to come to the table, please? Dr. Ethel Agnes Pascua Valenzuela, former Southeast Asian Minister of Education or CIMEO Secretariat. Where is she? Dr. Ethel Agnes Pascua Valenzuela. Not here. Okay. Dr. Alvin Culaba, Vice President and Academician of the National Academy of Science and Technology. Dr. Jose Ramon Albert from Philippine Institute of Development Studies or PIDS. Attorney Antonio Eduardo Natura Jr. from Accra Law. Morning, sir. And of course, in previous, are they present? Also present are those who have spoken in the previous meeting, Dr. Sikat, EDCOM Chief Legal Officer Attorney Estrada, PRC Director Melissa Comafey, and OIC Division Chief Rosales, PACU Representative Joshua Alexander Calaguas. That's it for now. And again, we thank you for your presence, your honors. So as you can see, we've got several guests, so we'll turn it over to the body for your feedback, which is much appreciated. We'll start with more or less, we'll follow the order of recognition. So we'll ask the Commission on Higher Education, Dr. De Vera, to give his views on charter change. Morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to speak in this hearing. I will make my presentation very short because I'm really more interested in answering questions if there are any. But basically, the Commission interposes no objection to the proposal to amend the Constitution to open up control and administration of higher education institutions to foreign nationals. Number one, so that we will be able to provide additional options to students who want to pursue their education in foreign universities here, help internationalize higher education, facilitate university-to-university linkages between Philippine and foreign universities, and increase foreign student enrollment in the Philippines. But all of this will, of course, depend on the enabling law that will be passed by Congress pursuant to the constitutional amendment. The enabling law must provide incentives for foreign universities to locate here It must be able to ensure complementarity between Philippine and foreign universities, ensure that control over the curriculum and other administrative matters remains with the Philippines, with the ministry or with TED. But more important, we are happy that this is being discussed because it allows us to reopen discussions on the framework for higher education, particularly on how to improve quality in higher education, how to ensure that our Philippine universities are competitive, and the kind of interventions and policies that the government must put in place to ensure access to quality higher education. With that, Mr. Chair, I am ready to answer any questions.
Well, maybe what we do is the procedure, Sec, is we really go around the table first and then we allow questions from our colleagues. So we'll do that. Thank you, Dr. De Vera. Can we go to DOLE, Yusek Felipe Gargo Jr.?
Thank you very
Morning
much,
po.
Mr. Chair. The Department of Labor and Employment expresses its support to the ongoing hearings of the Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendments in its efforts to know the pulse of the people, the government bureaucracy, civil society, legal luminaries, and the entire Filipino nation, in whether or not the amendments or revision to the Constitution can be executed by the insertion of the phrase unless otherwise provided by law. Section 9, Article 2, in relation to Paragraph 1, Section 3 of Article 13 of the Philippine Constitution provides that it is the policy of the state to promote full employment and equality of employment opportunities for all. In order to carry out the said objectives, the state has to work hard in inviting numerous foreign investors to invest or establish enterprises in the country that will eventually generate more jobs opportunities for the Filipinos. Hence, the proposal to amend certain restrictive economic provisions of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, particularly Articles 12, 14, and 16, will allow foreign businesses to breeze into more conducive investment landscape. It is indubitable that promotion of full employment and equality of employment opportunities for all is the breath of life of the department, and attracting foreign investors to invest in the country is indispensable in order to fulfill the policies of the state and mandates of the department. It is therefore appropriate to support the initiative of Congress to full employment and economic development. However, we must ensure that the insertion of the phrase otherwise provided by law in some restricted economic provisions of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, particularly Articles 12, 14, and 16, will not contravene the Filipino first policy enshrined also in the 1987 Philippine Constitution, as expounded by the Honorable Court in the Manila Prince Hotel versus Government Insurance System. We wish to inform the committee chair and the honorable members of the committee that the department will submit its specific comments on the resolution. Maraming salamat po.
Salamat, Yusek Gargo. Can we hear from DepEd, Asek Bringas?
To the Honorable Chair of this committee, Senator Angara, please allow me to read the position of the department with regards to the resolution number 6, particularly paragraph 2, section 4 of article 4 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution. This is reference to the request to submit a position paper on resolution number 6 by both houses of Congress, titled Resolution of Both Houses of Congress Proposing Amendments to Certain Economic Provisions of 1987 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines, particularly Articles 12, 14, and 16, specifically the proposed amendment to paragraph 2, section 4, Article 14 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution. The department is of the view that the proposed amendments by both houses of Congress to paragraph 2, section 4, Article 14 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution have far-reaching consequences and serious implications with respect to the mandate of the department and the exercise of its functions. The phrase, unless otherwise provided by law, and its underlying rationale could potentially serve as a gateway to expand the scope of control and administration over educational institutions, not solely by citizens of the Philippines, but by other entities as well. In this light, the scope and limits of control and administration are put into question, including the processes defining who, what, and how education shall be administered. The most basic question is, will it allow foreign entities to teach? For this, the department strongly objects to this amendment. Moreover, expanding the scope and control of administration over educational institutions to foreign entities may affect the programs and commitment of the department, specifically with respect to the implementation of the curriculum. During the foundational years of basic education, learners undergo crucial development across various areas, including physical, social, emotional, cognitive, and values. As this phase lays the foundation for future learning, it is essential that Philippine curriculum is exclusively implemented by Filipino citizens. This ensures alignment with the specific needs and context of the country. It is stressed that one of the key thrusts of the DepEd Matatag basic education agenda is the cultivation of learners' sense of nationality and identity as Filipinos through the Makabansa subject. Article 14, Section 3 provides that all educational institutions shall inculcate patriotism and nationalism. Having foreign entities control and administer basic education in the Philippines may run contrary to this undertaking. This begs the question, how can foreign entities who are not citizens of the Philippines and therefore may lack first-hand experience in Filipino culture and values effectively impart a sense of patriotism and nationalism to learners? Consequently, this may result in the possible dilution of the fundamental aspects of Filipino identity, culture, and values to be taught, and worse, endanger national security. In relation to national security, the removal of the third paragraph on the limits on the number of foreign nationals studying in the educational institutions and the prohibition of the establishment of educational institutions solely for foreigners, except for those created for foreign dignitaries and their dependents and for other foreign temporary residents, poses great risks on national security due to the lack of provisions for proper supervision and control over aliens in the Philippine territory. Moreover, this significantly diminishes the department's oversight of school supervision and management, including but not limited to curriculum offerings, roster of faculty, policies, programs, and matriculation. This susceptibility to external and foreign influence raises concern regarding national security, as it may expose these educational institutions to infiltration and compromise. In view of the foregoing, this department strongly opposes the proposed amendment to paragraph 2, section 4, article 14 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, specifically the vesting of full control and administration of basic education institutions to aliens through legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sec. Bringas. We'd like to acknowledge our colleague, Senator Bato de la Rosa, the Senate Chair of the Committee on Public Order. Morning, sir. I think your position highlights the point or that we need more clarity in the language, because the intention is not to liberalize basic education. The intent is to liberalize higher and vocational and technical. So I think you can rest assured that we will not open up basic education. That was touched on by several resource persons. Marami nagsabi last week na hindi nga dapat buksan. And at the outset of the educational institutions session, we already said the intention was not to open up a basic education, because nga yung importance of values, formation, nationalism, among others. yung exactly with what you said, Asik. But my question is, do you have a view on higher education, or is your authority to give a position limited only to basic education?
The position of the department is for the discussions on the tertiary education. We defer to the Commission on Higher Education, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can we hear from TESDA Deputy Director General Rosana Ordaneta? Morning po.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. The agency TESDA acknowledges the necessity of reframing the nation's economic policy to keep up with the demands of our increasingly globalized age, while considering and protecting the Filipino First policy that guides the economic provisions of our constitutions. With the technological advancement and evolving global standards that affects employment landscape and changing workforce needs due to the fourth and fifth industrial revolution, the way we live, work, and relate to one another has been changed, thus affecting our existing systems and processes. Anchored on the national TSD plan for 2023 to 2028, TESDA, the industry, TVET providers, and other stakeholders should come together to strengthen the TVET in the country as a source of skills, knowledge, and technology needed to drive employment and productivity. The TVET sector has to keep abreast with the modern educational needs to be relevant and responsive to the workforce needs of the community, the industry, and the economy in general. TESDA supports this amendment and welcomes foreign participation and cooperation to reinforce the educational and technological needs in higher level TVET qualifications. With the national demand to align with industry requirements and standards, TVET provision is capital intensive in terms of the state-of-the-art equipment and facilities, and foreign investments as such would provide learners and trainees better knowledge, skills, and experience as in the workplace. Further, foreign trainers can impart their expertise and provide guidance that learners and trainees can adopt and learn from. In technical vocational education and training, the term highly technical refers to specialized and advanced skills and knowledge required for specific technical fields. Highly technical aspects in TVET programs often involve in-depth training and expertise in areas such as advanced technology, mastery of cutting-edge technologies relevant to particular industry, specialized techniques, proficiency in specialized techniques, methods, and procedures, industry-specific knowledge, in-depth understanding of industry standards, regulations, and practices, advanced machinery operation, skillful operation of advanced machinery and equipment, problem-solving skills, ability to analyze and solve complex technical problems within the context of a particular trade or profession, research and development. In some cases, highly technical TVET programs may involve aspects of research and development, pushing the boundaries of innovation in a given field. These highly technical aspects ensure that individuals completing TVET programs are equipped with specialized skills. Looking at the foreign ownership in the education sector in different countries in ASEAN, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Singapore allow 100% foreign ownership in education. The Philippines, together with Indonesia and Thailand, has a ceiling on foreign ownership. Moreover, Singapore is a regional leader in creating the regulatory framework to welcome and accommodate foreign investments. Thus, if you can see and observe, they have a highly technical TVET sector. In Malaysia, generally 100% foreign ownership in private education is allowed, though this often depends upon the curriculum being taught. use of the national curriculum, whether alone or in hybrid with foreign curriculum, may limit the amount of foreign equity injection. Such uncertainty embodies one of the trickier issues for investors in Malaysia. Private education is highly regulated and lacking of clarity, although regulatory exceptions are available with approval of the Ministry of Higher Education. On the other hand, to safeguard the quality of Tibet provision, TESDA, as the authority in Tibet in the country, has the power and responsibility in the establishment of Tibet institutions and the regulation of Tibet provision, be it locally owned and or with foreign ownership. Through its quality assured process, the Unified Tibet Program Registration System, or UTPRAS. This is an ISO system, requires the mandatory registration of Tibet programs with TESDA. Please be assured, Mr. Chair, of the agency's readiness to provide its utmost support once this legislative measure is approved, according to the formalities required by the Constitution and relevant laws and issuances. Thank you po.
Thank you, Director Urdaneta. We go now to our, we'd like to acknowledge our chairperson of in the Senate of Basic Education and Ways and Means, Senator Win Gatchalian. Morning, sir. Well, any statements from our fellow senators? Wala naman. We'll continue if, yeah, Senator Bato. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ma'am Urdaneta? Hindi ko, medyo
Yes,
mahaba,
Mr. Senator.
mahaba yung sinabi mo eh.
Po.
Gusto ko lang summarize. Okay ka? Hindi.
Okay po.
Okay. Okay.
For
Okay.
highly technical courses po.
Okay. Thank you for a very short and sweet question from Senator De La Rosa. Next, we'll go to our tech voc education and R&D institutions. And maybe we'll intersperse with the private sector para may konting variety and flavor. So MSU Iligan, Chancellor Tito Calan is with us. You probably flew in just for this hearing, Chancellor. Thank you very much. So please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to our colleagues and to our honorable senators. The Philippine government actively promotes foreign investments to drive economic growth. In fact, to liberalize the country's economic and encourage foreign investment, the Congress amended various laws, the Foreign Investment Act and the Public Service Act, for instance, to allow 100% foreign ownership to selected industries. However, despite the various amendments to existing laws, they are subject to restrictive economic provisions of the 1987 Constitution. As such, there are still certain professions and industries that impose limits on foreign involvement. One of which is the limitation set under Article 14, Section 4 of the Constitution regarding educational institutions, particularly higher education and institutions. Nevertheless, despite the limitations set above, the Philippine Constitution remains dynamic to adapt to the needs of the changing times. In view of this, the proposed amendment to Section 14, Section 4, Number 2 of the Constitution becomes imperative to align with the nation's directions toward globalizations and economic liberalizations and internationalizations of higher education in particular. Internationalization is rapidly growing among higher education institutions around the world. And scholars found that HEI opt to expand and deepen their international engagement to increase revenue, enhance prestige, and improve student learning. And from a competition policy perspective, opening HEI to foreign investment will lead to a more competitive higher education institutions. And we believe that this will benefit state universities and colleges, as the government will be forced to put more funding for higher education institutions to compete with higher education institutions controlled by foreign investment. However, as discussed by Goris of UNESCO International Institute for Higher Educations, the implementations of policies on internationalizations of higher education requires substantial long-term investment that demands huge financial and human resources. This is seen as a challenge for HEI in the Philippines, vying for internationalization due to constraints in organizational infrastructure and budget, among others. And we believe this constitutional amendment will address this gap. Having said that, Mr. Chair, we support this constitutional initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. Next, we'll hear from UP Los Baños, Chancellor Jose Camacho. Morning po.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. We support this initiative. The University of the Philippines, Los Baños, has derived the benefits of internationalization and opening up our campus to best facilities and expertise. UP Los Baños is currently engaged with Transnational education program being initiated or funded by the Commission on Higher Education. We currently implement the dual PhD program with the University of Reading in the UK and with the Curtin University in Australia. We are also hosting the Nagoya University Asian Satellite Campus. Nagoya University in Japan is a producer of Nobel laureates, and our access is in terms of funding of PhD scholarship of faculty members and researchers to get their PhD degree in Nagoya while doing their administrative work in the university.
Sorry, Chancellor, to interrupt, but what was the Australian university? What was the name of the Australian?
That's Curtin University in,
How do you spell
in
that?
Perth, CURTIN.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
and continuing, furthermore, the Nagoya University, as I've expounded earlier, while being engaged with us in funding the PhD scholarship of our faculty members, we have access to the number of facilities and equipment that Nagoya University gives to the university, that Nagoya University gives to UP Los Baños. Every year, the PhD students go to Japan in Nagoya to conduct their research, have access to seminars and facilities being conducted or being organized by their Japanese professors. The University of the Philippines, Los Baños is one of the first campuses of UP system that has been engaged, with internationalization, especially with the presence of the international rice research institutes. The faculty members coming from IRI act as professors, as advisors, research professors of our PhD students. They also co-published the research that they have conducted with the professors coming from IRI. The professors from IRI also teach in UP Los Baños. So here you can see the benefits of opening up our borders to international experience when it comes to higher education. For now, I would describe this experience of the university in
Thank
terms
you.
of international.
Thank you very much, Chancellor. I would like to acknowledge the presence of our minority leader in the Senate, Senator Coco Pimentel, who has stated he's against it. So please direct your favorable comments to Senator Coco. No, but seriously, I'm just curious because Chancellor Camacho, you mentioned that you already have these existing partnerships with all these reputable universities. How does liberalizing the constitutional provision improve on that or further it? Could you go into detail a little bit?
For one, the university should have a reputation for these foreign universities to engage with us. Should have a reputation.
Let me rephrase that. Baka hindi clear yung question ko. My question is, you're already doing it.
Yes, sir.
So what does when we if we adopt this constitutional provision amendment subject to a plebiscite, of course the people have to approve it. How does that improve further upon what you're already doing?
Yeah, sir, let me clarify that our experience is only in terms of forging partnerships and signing partnership initiatives when it comes to academic collaborations and research engagements. I would say that because of the reputation of the university, the competencies of faculty, the expertise of the faculty, the quality of students that we recruit, would somehow have a bearing on our university partners, international university partners. So they would be interested to also engage with us, especially when it comes to the kinds of research, cutting edge research and publications that our faculty and students would like to engage with.
Senator Win and then Senator Bato after. Yeah, Senator Win, go ahead.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, Professor, I heard earlier that you have partnerships already, and this is probably under the transnational education law. But have you encountered any potential investors slash foreign education institutions who uh, desires ownership as a decision-making point rather than partnerships? There are limitations to both, no? There are also pros and cons to both, no? But because UP is exposed to a lot of these international institutions, and I heard that you have already engaged some of these international institutions, but have you encountered any comments that ownership, administration slash control is important and is a very important decision-making point for them in order to set up shop here in the Philippines?
I would say, sir, that in terms of what has been expressed by this investors, supposedly investors or higher education players from their home countries, this would be in terms of recruiting students, and in terms of what has been expressed is in terms of the equipment and the facilities that they can put up in the university, provided that the students and faculty members of the university can be engaged in co-publication and, for instance, on student and faculty mobility from their home country. In other words, that there should be an active engagement. But as regard to a tangible investment in the university, that we have not encountered yet, sir.
Thank you, Senator Bato. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, laruin ko lang kay Chancellor Camacho. Sir, okay yung partnership ninyo, okay yung experience niyo as far as ngayon nakikita mo, di ba? Pero tingnan natin just kung ma-open up na ito at remember, this is going to be business. Pag pumasok na sila dito, baka wala na kayong partnership, wala na kayong magiging engagement with them. Dahil negosyo ito eh. Pinapasok ninyo kami dito, amin na ito, bahala na kayo sa buhay ninyo, kami nang bahala dito. Dahil this is a negosyo, this is business. What do you think will happen like sa inyo kung masyado kayo nagre-rely sa partnership with them in order to better your quality of education na ino-offer ngayon sa ating mga kababayan? Ito lang, theory ko lang ito. Kung andito na sila, tapos, well, andito na kami, amin na ito. Bahala na kayo dyan. So, siguro tayo, mag-rely tayo on our own. Gobyerno natin, asahan natin na pagandahin natin to or maghanap ka ng ibang partnership ng ibang hindi nakakapasok dito. Ako lang, nag-iisip lang ako ng posibilidad. What do you think, sir?
Sa tingin ko, sir, ay papasok po, mas makakahikayat po tayo ng mas maraming quality higher education investors, itong mga foreign investors on academic institutions and higher education. Sa tingin ko, sir, kung babaguhin po or ma-improve po natin mga sistema at mga proseso. Sa tingin ko, sir, mas makakahikayat tayo dito kung ang mga proseso sa procurement o mga proseso sa regulations natin ay ma-harness or ma-improve po natin. Sir, halimbawa po, yun po sa Nagoya University, every time po na sila po ay magdo-donate ng mga equipment or facilities nila dito sa amin, sa UPLB, kailangan pong dumaan sa customs. Pero dahil po mabusisi yung proseso ng pagpasok ng mga yung mga high-tech na equipment po, ay kailangan po talaga nilang pagdaanan ng mga ganitong proseso. So kailangan po siguro na mas mapadali ho natin yung mga proseso para mas makahikayat pa po tayo ng mga foreign investors on higher education.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, yung concern lang ako sa atin, yung sarili natin, but just in case makapasok sila dito, what will happen to ours? Yung atin talaga, din siguro, magbe-benefit tayo dyan in the sense na kung ano yung magiging produkto nila, baka pwede nating ipapasok sa ating sistema, then that will contribute, di ba? Assimilation or how do you call it? So, yun lang nakikita ko. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Salamat, sir.
That's a good point
Chancellor.
by Senator De La Rosa. Yung baka nga mawala yung partnership kung sakali. I'm just curious, Chancellor. Ito bang tatlong nabanggit yung universidad? Yung Nagoya, Curtin, at saka Reading. Are they private or state-owned
Ang Nagoya po, sir,
institutions?
ay public.
Public po yun.
And then ang Reading din po ay public.
Okay.
Ang Curtin, sa pagkakalam ko
Ayun,
din po, sir, ay
wala po
public din po.
So they're all three are public?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yung concern ni Senator Bato will apply to a privately owned kasi yon profit they're determined their policies will be determined by their profit motive. Pero it's a good point, Vice Chair. Thank you. Siguro let's switch over to let's have one more from the research and development cluster. Si Director Delara of DOST Philippine High School, Science High School, and then we can go to the some of our private sector resource persons, PCCI and Dr. Kulaba, Attorney Natura, among others. So can we hear from the DOST Philippine Science High School System Deputy Executive Director Rod Delara? Is he here?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Morning.
Morning, Mr. Chair. With reference to the Senate resolution of both houses number 6 titled a resolution of both House of Congress proposing amendments to certain economic provisions of the 1987 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines, particularly Articles number 12, 14, and 16, the PSHS system posed no objection at this point to the aforesaid constitutional amendment that will allow the entrant of foreign schools in the country to offer basic and or higher education services to Filipino and non-Filipinos residing or living in the Philippines. The PSHS system being the country's premier STEM high school, catering to Filipino scholars with high aptitude in science and mathematics, welcomes all government initiatives that will improve the standards of education in the country at all levels. Foreign or international schools operating in the Philippines have been part of our feeder system time immemorial. During the 2023 PSHS National Competitive Examination or the NCE, some 224 students from 62 locally based international schools sat for the NCE to vie for 1,920 available scholarship slots across the country. of which 95 of them scored above the national mean score, the minimum NCE score required to be considered as principal qualifier in a PSHS campus. For a better perspective, only 3,510 students out of 24,738 NCE applicants across the country scored above the national mean score. For international schools, this translates to a 47% qualifying rate, which is significantly higher than the national average of 14%. As for the entrance of international universities in the country, this would provide additional pathway for our graduates. In 2021, some 138 PSHS scholars qualified for admission to 258 undergraduate courses from 90 universities abroad. But only a little over 20% of them would pursue studies abroad due to high cost of living and studying abroad. Having international universities in the Philippines can offer alternative pathways for our scholars to earn international degrees at substantially lower cost. In view of the above, the PSHS system is receptive to the Joint House resolution proposing to amend the Constitution that will allow the entrance of foreign schools and universities in the country, and reserves its comments until the ensuing law and implementing rules and regulations thereto is drafted. Thank you.
Just to clarify, you're saying you're in favor of entry into basic education at the high school level, secondary level.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And can I just want to recap your stats? You're saying 14% versus
47%
versus 47 versus 14%. Okay. But that's a statement on our basic education. Real, diba? You're saying it's of a lesser quality when it comes to what's that? Science and what other mathematics? Sama ba mathematics? STEM in general. Okay. Okay. Sige. Thank you. As mentioned earlier, with the permission of my colleagues, we'll move to some of the private sector just to have a different flavor. The PCCI is here. So we have the Vice President of the SATI, or the Semiconductor and Electronics Industries in the Philippines, Chairman Ferdinand Terry Ferrer. Of course, semiconductors are our main export, if I'm not mistaken. No? So please correct me, the DTI people, if nagkamali ako. So Perry Ferrer, sir, please.
Yes, good morning, Honorable Chairman, and also to the senators. Thank you for giving the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry an opportunity to speak here, as well as SAPI, the Semiconductor Electronics Industries of the Philippines, which is the largest exporter. In 2023, we exported around 46 billion exports. The Philippine Chamber of Commerce will support any constitutional amendments, but limited only to the economic provisions that will enhance the competitiveness of the Philippines and attract more local and foreign investors, and enhancing the ability of our country to participate in more effectively in global trade. That is where PCCI will always be your supporter and also be your partner. When it comes to education, it's always been our advocacy to generate quality jobs. But quality jobs needs quality workers, quality and capable workers, which all stem from the educational system. We have 3.4 million students. We graduate approximately 750,000 annually. This is the feeder stock or the feeder institution to continue the successful on our businesses. Without these students, without quality education, without 21st century skills in our educational system, in our graduates, our businesses will continue to incur more cost in their own training. So we support any measures that if we can bring in international partners into the country in providing 21st century skills into the country, into our 3.4 million students. This will ensure the continued trajectory of our businesses and growth in our businesses. So when it comes to supporting international partners, I believe earlier it was mentioned, we believe international educational institutions will not just dive in and come in 100%. We believe, like any other business, they will look for local partners. We have several private and SUCs, and I believe the foreign educational institutions will initially look for partners in the Philippines. From then, there will be technology or educational transfer, which in turn will flow down to our students and eventually businesses. Thank you, Chairman.
It's quite an enlightened viewpoint from your point of view, because some domestic industries would not want the competition. But so we thank you for that. But with respect to your specific industry, and maybe perhaps you put on your hat as a participant in the semiconductors, how would liberalizing higher education improve, aside from providing quality graduates? That assumes the entry of quality institutions also into our country. But aside from that, what specifically, what niche would the Philippines be able to, or paano niya ika-climb yung ladder, so to speak, no? I just mentioned that because the Senate made an amendment in the DTI budget to study the possibility of wafer manufacturing. I think we discussed that when we spoke at the PCCI at some point, no? So that's under the Senate amended the DTI budget to include a study on wafer manufacturing, because we realize if we don't have the industries here, then the graduates will just leave. But maybe you could talk a little bit about where you want the industry to go if you had the ability to attract quality institutions and to produce quality graduates, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. I will limit my discussion on education and training. Our semiconductor industry, we all know that a lot of investment has gone to our neighboring countries. And thank you for discussing the possibility of having a wafer fabrication here in the Philippines, which is the missing element in the whole semiconductor supply chain. We have the design and development, we have assembly, test, and packaging. Only thing missing is the wafer fab. And that is, you can say that is the soul when it comes to semiconductors. Vietnam is investing heavily on wafer fab. India is now investing in wafer fab. And that's how it all starts in the wafer fabrication. Of course, prior to that is the design and development. But we all know about TSMC, who has TSMC now has two factories, inaugurated one factory in Japan, in Kyushu, now starting a second factory. TSMC now has a factory in Arizona. So the reason I'm specifically talking about the semiconductor and electronics, it provides high quality, high paying jobs in the Philippines. At the same time, it creates downstream the supply chain. Now, liberalizing, bringing in international training or educational institutions in the Philippines, we have a gold mine in the Philippines, which is 3.4 million students, which is the envy of most countries, which they don't have that young population. So educating, not just educating, developing, upskilling our students to the 21st, 22nd century skills, what the industry needs, will secure the Philippines will secure the Philippines, Chairman, in its position to be a first world economy by 2050. That one we believe in the industry. We truly believe, but we need to upskill our workers and our students, which we have now, 3.4 million. So bringing in partners now, there is always the discussion of jobs and skills mismatch. Actually, we just want to narrow it down. We don't want it to meet because the gap between the skills mismatch and the job, that's the innovation part. We want the industries to continue to innovate and let the educational system, just be not far behind. But during the pandemic, what we saw in the industry, the quality of our graduates deteriorated. It's because of the digital divide. Here in Manila, the students was able to go on online training, education, but what was alarming was the probinsya, who was not able to go online or learn. So there are many things to improving, but one is really connectivity. And I know there are programs, the open access bills, improving the connectivity, internet connectivity throughout DepEd and higher education. And that's one step of bringing our students, our future leaders and business people to higher skilled workers. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. From the National Academy of Science and Technology, we have Dr. President, Vice President, and Academician of the National Academy of Science and Technology, Dr. Albert.
Alvin po.
Sorry, Dr. Kulapa. I'm sorry.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and the honorable senators. Please allow me to share my screen here for my position. I would like to make it clear that I've been invited here as a resource person, and my views does not necessarily shared by the National Academy of Science and Technology and of De La Salle University. But I'm an engineer, and I have over 30 years of experience within the scientific and the academic community. No,
Just as an introduction, which area of research? What is your
mechanical
area of research?
energy.
Energy.
Energy,
research. Yeah,
yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. So amending the Article 14, Section 4 of the 1987 Constitution, will this necessarily create wealth, for the country? Next slide, please. I'm taking off from the last public hearing where many of my colleagues have actually shared their views on this proposed amendment. If you look at this particular slide here, these are the stages of development and the competitiveness drivers. There are three, in the world global competitiveness ranking. They look at basic efficiency and innovation. But the Philippines is still situated in the transition between the factor-driven stage and the efficiency-driven stage. We are very far from the innovation-driven stage, where in fact in this current administration, we would like to pursue an industrial strategy which is driven by innovation. Next slide, please. In this particular slide shows the GII, the Global Innovation Index. This has been shown by some of my colleagues last public hearing. And I just want to reiterate, in the 2023 data, that the Philippines still, far from, even amongst the ASEAN, from the point of view of research and development score, and in terms of the researchers in full-time equivalent per million population, which is actually reported as 173.6. Okay. So we're a bit far from our neighbors here in the ASEAN. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah. If we want to move up the value ladder to the innovation stage, it is a lot of work, no? From a physical resource-based economy to labor-intensive, moving up to the capital-intensive economy, and to the knowledge-based and technology-based economy, and up in the ladder is the innovation stage. So where is the Philippines here? We're still hovering between a labor-intensive to a capital-intensive, transition economy. Next slide, please.
Dr. Clavo. Kasi
Yes.
I'm sure maraming nanonood sa hearing natin ngayon. I think those are very technical terms, no? Maybe if we could take a pause and explain lang natin sa masa. Paano tayo ano yung ibig sabihin ng labor intensive? Ano yung mga ehemplo niyan, yung capital intensive? Ano yung, for example, what is a labor intensive product or innovation? And when do you know, kailan mo malalaman na nandun ka na sa capital intensive?
Okay.
Please, sorry.
Most of our, karamihan ng industriya natin dito sa Pilipinas ay micro and small and medium enterprises. And therefore, the technology that are actually utilized are still manual, and therefore would use more people, to operate these machines. And yes, I think the DTI is here about what?
So things like garments
99.5.
siguro, mga garments, mga
yeah,
ganon.
the factories that
Yeah,
we
it
have.
doesn't involve technology too much, no?
Yeah, but even in higher, like even in semicon, yeah, there is still a lot of engineers needed there, to operate, the machines. In terms of capital intensive, business, or, these are, the manufacturing industry, like in semicon, for example, the other industries, that really make use of huge machines and high-tech machines. So these are capital intensive, activities. Okay, next slide, please. So the government has been spending a lot, in building science, technology, and engineers. And this is an important investment. It is a business investment, as we see that science is a business for the people. Hence, there must be a return on investment. And the return on investment here should actually transform to economic growth and national competitiveness. Next slide, please. So our national investment in STE has been on capacity building. Huge and massive funds are put into, building our S&T capacity through scholarships. Many say, I'm a recipient of that. And of course, also building our readiness to do research and innovate. And this is the core of our STE investment, in this country. But did this investment translated into the growth in our economy and competitiveness of our country? Next slide, please. Currently, the Philippine Science and Technology human capital has to be mobilized to the various strategies and roadmaps that our agencies of the government, like the Department of Science Technology, the Commission on Higher Education, the Department of Trade and Industry. But we are also guided by the Philippine Development Plan 2023 and 2028. There are some economic agenda there, which also includes science, technology, and innovation. And the National Academy of Science and Technology, actually through the DOST, the Pagtanaw 2050, which academician Padolina mentioned in the last public hearing. Next slide, please. So the S&T human capital development framework would see that the academe is at the core of our human capital source. And it actually connects to the practically all sectors of the economy. It's actually the main, producer of our S&T human capital. So we need to strengthen our academic, institution, as it can be seen in this diagram. Next slide, please. The current state of our education, based on the TED 2023 data, there are over 2,000 higher education institutions, which actually includes the various satellite campuses of SUCs. If we exclude these satellite campuses, it would still be around 1,975 higher education institutions. And to think that there are only, how many of the institutions here have centers of excellence, as you can see on the upper third quadrant of this slide. Centers of excellence and centers of development, mostly concentrated in the National Capital Region. And there are not many, science programs or STEM programs which are actually considered as centers of development or centers of excellence. The data also shows that there are, in the academic year 2016 to 2017, according to the TED data, only a few, or 28 out of these, HEIs that we have offer PhD programs. It is understandable because the TED requires that to be able to offer a PhD program, you need 3 full-time faculty in that particular area, in general area. You're not even talking about a very specific area in the discipline. So the S&T situation in our HEIs is a bit alarming. Because if you look at the data on the lower end of this figure, the in STEM enrollment is going down. Now, if we want to address our innovation-driven economy in the future, well, we have to rethink. How do we reverse this trend, okay? STEM graduates also declining. So we need to really, look at, and that particular figure there shows the different, STEM areas. Okay, next slide, please. So this is the current scenario. I'm analyzing currently, assessing the S&T human capital in the country. So at the moment, this is how it's happening. The industry cannot move up primarily because of the weaknesses of our S&T sector from our academic, institutions. There are not many faculty with PhDs. Why are we talking here of PhDs, no? Because these are the people who are actually expected to generate new knowledge. Universities, by definition, should generate new knowledge, apart, of course, from the other functions of teaching and the extension or community service. In fact, in our assessment, many of those who conduct research and development, about 42% have no PhDs. So what do you expect of the quality of ideas, that will come out of those research, activities? So if you can see in this diagram, while the government provides the regulations and the, incentives and other programs, scholarships, etc., to be able to support, the graduate, the STEM graduates, so that it can supply the needed, manpower of industry, as Mr. Ferreira mentioned, earlier. There's still a lot of things to be done in the HEI. Our capacity at the HEI is not there. That's why it's tilted. There's a gap. That's the problem. Next slide, please. In our S&T human capital, the government has identified 7 priority areas, from water, food and nutrition, health, sufficiency, clean energy, environment, infrastructure, and even technology. There are not many of our S&T, personnel are competent enough, to actually contribute towards solving the problem of this, particular, sectors. Next slide, please. So what do we need to do? I think it's a good idea to open up foreign HEIs in the country. This is what I probably call as a catch-up strategy. If we do the business as usual at the moment, our capacity to train our own PhDs in this country is very, very low. We will not be able to do it. We will not be able to catch up with, our population is growing at a much faster rate than at the rate we are actually producing our S&T, human capital. So in other words, so the foreign HEIs will actually accelerate the opportunity to train and capacitate our S&T human resource. And if that happens, you can see that, it will be now more balanced, so we can put the industry up and hopefully, deliver, the wealth that is needed by this country.
With your permission,
Yes,
Dr.
Senator.
Kulaba, who are the producers of the PhDs? Is it the state colleges or is it the private institutions?
Both.
Right now.
Well,
So when we say we are lagging behind, both the private and the public are lagging behind.
yes.
Okay.
It's a mandate of, a higher education institution is a trifocal function. So research is already, what, of course, our core function is to teach. So if we need to strengthen our industry, then, and sustain innovation, we need to have highly capable S&T people. So, because the objective there is to develop technology. We cannot just make a user of technology. We have to develop technology. And the development of technology and innovation arise from strong research and development activities. But certainly there are many challenges to this, which I have actually indicated in this chat. But on the right side, if you look at the other post, there is this red, space there, which are actually the challenges that we need to address. I think it was actually mentioned already many times by our colleagues and resource persons today and the last public hearing. There are still many restrictions if a foreign institution would be operating in the country, and that has to be addressed as well. Next slide, please. So this is hopefully what will come out, an innovation ecosystem. An innovation ecosystem is actually a diverse participants from all sectors of the economy. Next slide, please. And hopefully with a robust innovation ecosystem, we can now translate our investment in science, technology, and engineering to economic growth and national competitiveness. And next slide. Currently, what's happening is many of our talents are going out. And do you want to continue this? Okay, so we have to take care and capitalize on the talents that we have, in the country. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. And finally, amending the Constitution on Article 4, personally, is necessary to create wealth. My answer is yes. Thank you.
I noticed that slide has the biggest font. Yun yung pinaka-importante. Thank you, Dr. Kulaba. Can we hear from, since you brought up that whole academe thing, maybe we should also consult the people at UP and TUP. So Technological University of the Philippines, Attorney Christopher Mortel. Attorney, go ahead.
Mr. Presiding Chairman and the honorable members of the committee, fellow workers in the government, good morning. Mr. Chairman, in the interest of time, and it has already been discussed by several resource persons, the Technological University of the Philippines joined the position of the Commissioner on Higher Education in supporting the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
But maybe you could share a little bit. What is the status now of TUP? what is your mandate when it comes to higher education and innovation? And how are you performing it, how will opening up the education to foreign-owned institutions improve our innovation ecosystem? Of course, nabanggit na rin ng iba, no? But from your standpoint, sir.
From the university's standpoint, and to bring context, basically the mandate of the university is to provide education, particularly in engineering and technology education, and bringing in foreign institution or liberalizing the higher education institution in the Philippines will also support in the effort of the government or in support of the internationalization effort of the university, as well as with regard to upskilling the faculty of the university, Mr. Chair.
Okay. UP, can we hear from Dr. Menchit Padilla? Ma'am.
Good morning to Mr. Chair and the members of the committee. I actually am here to represent researchers and scientists, but allow me to just say at the outset that any amendment that will help research and development growth in the country is going to be welcome. But let me make this a couple of points. Well, number one, in the issue of internationalization, there are many ways. Partnership is part of the life of UP. So I'm actually a retired professor of the university, and partnerships, we have survived just on the area of partnerships in the field of medicine, even with formal, informal engagements. We have collaborated with universities in the US, Europe, Asia, and without any of these universities wanting to have any investment in our university. But they want to partner in terms of production of new ideas. So maybe I will just limit it to the field of health. So if I may just bring in home a point that there is another way of solving the issues at hand. Number one, in UP Manila, we have actually been able to push the issue of new knowledge and productivity. But let me explain to you now that even if we were able to produce a lot of products, there is a gap in our system because we are not able to scale up our products, and our researchers will have to bring it overseas and then bring it back to the Philippines at a higher cost. So if you're looking now at investment and business to the country, we actually have another formula. So maybe I'd like to share this now that, you know, as a research university, we are expected to produce the products for the country to solve the problems. And we have identified another solution. So we have the products now. We'd like to set up a science and technology park to actually scale up our products that we have developed in the country. So that will bring in foreign investment because they will be locators who can actually bring in talent and expertise to help our students and at the same time keep them. So maybe I'll wear another hat at this point. I actually chair a committee that is setting up the Science and Technology Park for UP Manila at the New Clark City. What we realized during the COVID pandemic is that even if we produced a lot of products, there was nothing in the country that can scale them up. And when we ran out of the parts, nobody would give them to the Philippines because they had their own problems. So with a very tight schedule at the moment, UP Manila is setting up a science and technology park specifically for health so that we can scale up at least 26 local products that we have on hand. And we have 13 biomedical devices that we can produce for our country. So that actually brings in low-cost products and the biomedical devices for use of the health sector. Now, where does the government come in? Okay, because now we're working very hard. We've been supported by the Department of Science and Technology for products for TRL. TRL is a technology readiness level from 1 to 4. We are working with the DTI at the moment to help us scale this up. And now we're working with government like Department of Health to buy to the product. So if we talk about what will bring the business to the country, it's not just foreign investment to the university, but actually helping the university produce the products and then scale them up. Now, the ladder presented by academician Kulaba shows the labor intensive and the innovation on the top of the ladder. We want to go up the ladder. So what I'm saying now is that the universities are actually producing innovations. But to be able to do that, we need support from government. We need foreign investment. So right now, as we build the Science and Technology Park in New Clark City for the health sector, we are talking to foreign investors and local investors. It will bring in jobs. It will bring in the talent who can help in the universities. So in the spirit of internationalization, I just want to share with UP, of course, with Chancellor Camacho, that partnerships is one way of internationalization. But the liberalization that we are appealing for is to allow us to hire foreign faculty, because in our current state right now, we are not allowed to hire foreign faculty. They can only be lecturers. I think that can improve if we can do that, then I think we can bring more people here. So liberalization means not only bringing in investment to the university, but actually bringing in the talent and hiring them formally. This has been done by many countries in the region. And I know for a fact that many countries like Singapore, they brought in talent from abroad to be able to scale up their capacity with an exit strategy of at least a decade. So in the spirit of investment, we urge the government to fund our local researchers. The investment comes in many ways. Education is one, but to become a research university, you must be producing the products. So that will mean investment from government. If you want to scale up now for the products, then we appeal to government to support the Science and Technology Park so that we create jobs in the Philippines, bring foreign talent, and at the same time, bring business. So at the moment, in the development of the Science and Technology
With your
Park-
permission, I
Yes.
think you raised a very important point, the hiring of foreign personnel, because that's a different provision of the Constitution. And in that provision, there is already a proviso or an exception, meaning, if I may read, this is Article 12, Section 14, the second paragraph. The practice of all professions in the Philippines shall be limited to Filipino citizens, save in cases provided by law. So I think mas swak yun dun sa provision na ito kaysa dun sa pinag-uusapan sa resolution number 6. Tama ba yun, Dr. Padilla? Is that what's preventing you from, because there is no enabling law?
Yes, because in UP, I'll just speak for UP.
Well, we'll consult
okay.
Attorney Nachura and the other lawyers, Attorney Estrada, Dr. De Vera also on this. But please, go ahead if you have
We
to.
can only hire them as lecturers. We cannot hire them as professors. So if you want to get talent from another university, they do not.
And what is the difference? Could you just specify for those who are not knowledgeable about the world of academe? What is the, yeah.
If you wanted to hire a professor, then you bring them to come in with all the perks of the position. They become a regular faculty member of the university.
And with
So-
research, with respect to research, what is the difference?
Well, we do have research professors now in the university. It's really the same. That's just one position at the moment. They can be hired as lecturers. That's one. They can be not at the level, because if we're talking about tertiary education of hiring additional talent, that will be the entry point wherein we will be allowed to hire foreign faculty as part of our regular faculty. For the Science and Technology Park, I don't think that will be an issue, because the goal is to bring in foreign talent really from local and international already at the moment. But for tertiary education, we will need the guidelines for that to allow us to hire them as regular faculty.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I'll still give you time afterwards, but I just want to to this point. Dr. Rivera, yes, you're raising your hand, and then I'll ask the two lawyers here.
Yeah, a quick intervention, Mr. Chair. I'd like to inform the committee that even if you teach in a state university or college, dual citizenship is not allowed. The civil service requires that you have to give up your citizenship to be able to teach in and be appointed in a state university or college. It's really interesting because we encourage them to come back here, but we don't allow them to teach.
That's a very interesting, ano, no? Maybe I think we should consult the Civil Service Commission on that policy. Is that it's a long-standing policy, Dr. Rivera?
A
Matagal na po.
2016 circular by the Memorandum Circular of the Civil Service Commission,
Right,
MC number
right.
23 series of 2016.
So yeah, I understand the spirit of this law, no? But maybe medyo baka maiwan tayo dito sa ganitong klaseng pag-iisip, no? So can I get the thoughts of yes, Senator
You know,
Benitez.
Mr. Chairman, what is the spirit? Kasi Filipino din yun.
Yun nga, I
So
think
what
the
is the
spirit is
spirit?
to ensure allegiance only to one country. So, but that kind of thinking, I think, is product of a more outdated world or a different world. Maybe not to prejudge it, but it's the product of a different world. A world where, you know, nationality was very important, and maybe we fought wars by firing guns, and which is still being done in Ukraine and other things. But of course, the world has changed in many respects, Mr. President, and there is a much benefit to be taken from migration, for instance, as shown by, you know, when Einstein migrated to the US, among other things, and you know, there was a lot of knowledge sharing there. Just to give an example, no. So yes, go ahead,
Siguro
Senator.
just to emphasize that a Filipino who is a dual citizen is, from the point of view of Philippine law, a full Filipino. Tandaan natin yun, talagang full Filipino.
I think yun ang sinasabi nga ni Dr. Rivera. Bakit natin pinayagang maging Pilipino, and yet parang hindi natin binigay ng buo sa kanya, di ba? Binigay natin sa kanya, pero for what, di ba? For maybe so he can own land, he can do other things. But di na natin binuo na it works to our detriment pa, di ba? Yun, I think that's his point. Tama ba?
Meron pa tayong balik scientist program na most likely, kunyari, naka 10 to 20 years na sa ibang bansa yun, baka dual citizen na. Bumalik siya rito, tapos hindi siya pwede magturo. That's it.
Yeah, very good example.
Chair,
In fact, yes, I'll recognize Senator De La Rosa after Senator
Hindi
Pimentel.
siya pwede magturo.
He cannot be appointed to a plantilla position in state.
Yep.
He will be required to give up his other citizenship. That's the rule of the Civil Service Commission.
Hindi naman kasal yan di ba? Parang hindi naman pwedeng dapat isa lang, di ba? I think in the world of academia, are we in agreement that in fact these multiple connections or engagements are beneficial rather than detrimental? Tama ho ba? Ayun. So that's established, no? So then we'll ask Attorney Nachura and Attorney Estrada on their views on this. And that mas maganda na nabanggit yan, because these are the implementing laws of our constitutional provisions that can actually defeat the intent or maybe improve the intent of the Constitution, as the case may be. Attorney Nachura, yes.
Good morning. Morning, Mr. Chair. Morning, honorable senators. Again, thank you for the invitation to give my personal insights on the proceedings now, no? On specifically on the matter at hand on the revision of paragraph 2 of section 4 of Article 14. Okay. Again, I have to make a disclaimer. I'm appearing here as just to give my personal insights. I'm not appearing here on behalf of the firm. Okay. Just to make it quick, I saw that based on the resolution of both houses, the proposed revision of section 4. The insertion of the word basic in educational institutions. I understand from the Honorable Chair that the intention really is to limit. Intention is not to open basic educational institutions to foreign ownership. No? So, in which case, the flip side of it, I think, is the intention is really to open up the higher educational institutions to foreign ownership. So, with that, I guess there is just a need to clarify also what would be the scope of the residual power of Congress in the second sentence in requiring the increase of Filipino equity ownership, because as of this point, at least from the draft, power is still to be exercised on all educational institutions. Same with the third provision. Same with the third sentence, where the phrase "unless otherwise provided by law" was inserted. Again, there may also be a need just to clarify the scope of the power of Congress in ensuring at what or to what particular institutions or educational institutions that control and administration should be reserved to Filipino citizens. Okay. I guess this is also a good opportunity to also consider the other related provisions in the Constitution that may have an effect, that may be affected by the revision of the amendment of Section 4. In particular, we note that at least from the text of the resolution, the third paragraph of the original Section 4 was no longer included insofar as the limitation on the alien students. So if the intention really is to if again we must also clarify whether the intention really is to remove the entirety of the provision or to retain it and with certain modifications also that may be consistent already with the proposals. Other provisions that may also need to be examined will be Section 3 of the same article, insofar as the requirement of the Constitution to teach the Philippine Constitution in all educational institutions, as well as the paragraph 2, which imposes the duty on these educational institutions to instill patriotism, the value of nationalism, foster love. So those I think may also need to be examined as and when the revisions are being implemented, are to be further discussed. And in relation to that, since this is also a duty being imposed on the at least for paragraph 2, Section 3, is also a duty being imposed on educational institutions. I think there's at least there's also a need to consider also what is the constitutionally recognized academic freedom of higher educational institutions on the possibility of Congress or the law implementing or imposing duties on these educational institutions on what can be covered or what should be included as part of their duties. Okay. Having said those points, based on what I've heard this morning, as well as from what I've read based on the discussions during the first hearing, I do believe that again this is an opportune time to get a to find the right balance, on trying to ensure that the Filipino interests and the Filipino values are instilled continuously to be instilled in our students, and of course to achieve what I see as the laudable objective of trying to open up educational institutions, which in the whereas clause of the resolution is to give access to the best educational institutions of both foreign and Filipino students.
Thank you, Attorney Chur. Before I go to Attorney Estrada, I apologize to Senator Bato because I promised to recognize him earlier. He was going to make a point. Pasensya na po. I hope you did not lose your train of thought, sir.
Mr. Chair, comment ko lang doon sa sinabi ni Chairman Popoy de Vera kanina, yung dual citizens na cannot practice their profession here in the Philippines. Para rin yang si Justin Brownlee ba? Binigyan natin ng ginawa nating naturalized citizen, tapos hindi pa rin makapaglaro sa PPA as a Filipino, but as an import. Parang ganun pa rin yun. Mga kuan sa batas ba, mga unfairness sa batas. Yun lang, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, in the case of
Yeah.
Justin
Minority Leader.
Rowley, dito po sa interpellations dito, klinaro natin yun. Kasi precisely yun ang dala natin point of view eh. Once you are declared a Filipino, naturalized as a Filipino, you should be treated like a Filipino. Yun ang sabi na, nag-warning pa nga tayo rito na if he's not treated like a Filipino, baka yung mga anti-discrimination laws meron pang nababiolate doon. Yeah, I think we made that very clear here. But of course, it really now depends on the aggrieved or the affected person if he wants to assert his rights. Pero yan po ang ating interpretation po dito po sa Senado when we granted the citizenship.
And Mr. Chair, I even asked him, pag magkagira tayo sa China, are you willing to fight with the Philippine Army? Are you willing to fight under the Philippine flag? Umuo siya. Di ba? So unfair naman. Makipagbarilan siya sa mga kalaban ng Estado, tapos hindi natin siya papalaruin as a Filipino doon sa PBA. Yun lang. That's beside the point, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for the
That's beside the
analogy,
point. Thank you, Mr.
Senator
Chair.
De Rosa and Senator Pimentel. Tama, ba't di na lang natin ibuo? Of course, siguro we can ask them to explain the policy and how it can be improved or made more favorable to the state and the people. Attorney Estrada. Yes.
Thank you po, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Just very quickly lang po on that point raised by Senator De La Rosa and Chairman Popoy. I just want to update on behalf of the EDCOM that that was raised yung pong RA 9225 on the restriction on those appointed officials of holding dual citizenship. They have to renounce their foreign oath to another country, and they should take oath and allegiance to the Philippines.
That is a general provision to apply to all government employees.
Yes, sir.
So maybe we should make an
Exemption.
exemption for scientific research and
State
that
universities.
kind of thing, di ba? Hindi naman for all positions, di ba? Kasi you might be depriving the Filipino of a job. Pero Filipino na siya actually, no?
Yeah,
So
Philippines.
you have to think of it. I shouldn't say that. But it applies. It's a government prohibition that hindi nila naisip na madedehado tayo in respect to science and technology. Tama ho ba?
Yes, Mr. Chair. In fact, yung pong faculty of state universities and colleges covered by that restriction, and also appointed officials to state universities and colleges. So we're thinking of removing that. We'll be presenting that in our next commission meeting. Now I'd like to proceed lang, Mr. Chair, on my comments. It's following your direction in the last hearing that if we want to internationalize and liberalize education, we do not stop in increasing the foreign equity investment. There's a menu of reforms that need to be done, and we don't stop there. Whether it's increasing wealth, whether it's making our education institutions more capable or improving quality, we need to do a lot of things, and we don't stop in increasing the foreign equity investment. Now, on that point, Mr. Chair, I just would like to clarify that in allowing or liberalizing education institutions in the country, there are two important aspects. Number one is the establishment itself, which concerns the ownership, the incorporation of the entity here, establishing a juridical personality here. And the second aspect is the recognition of that school. Yung pong second aspect, dito po yung regulatory environment, applying a recognition from the Commission on Higher Education. Lahat po ng restrictions andun na eh. So yung increasing the foreign equity investment or participation, it only concerns yung establishment. That's why we're saying yung pong lahat po ng iniisip natin, whether it's a restriction or liberalizing, dun po mangyayari dun sa second aspect, which is the regulatory framework. And in EDCOM, we have identified some of the administrative or regulatory barriers to liberalization that should also be addressed if we want to liberalize. So it's not only increasing the foreign equity participation, but actually making the policy environment more friendly. As discussed earlier, like yung pong hiring ng faculty, no? I just wanted to share that for even as it is now, if we want to invite foreign faculty, it has to pass through many regulations, not only from TED, it has to go through PRC, not only immigration. Like for example, kung allowed na po siya ng TED, not based on the program, but the foreign faculty need to get clearance from the PRC because that faculty should come from a country where there is reciprocity, for example. So kung inalaw na po doon at pinagbawal ng PRC, Hindi rin po yan papayagan ng immigration, no? Also for students. So lahat po yun, has to
Checklist so
be-
we can
Yes,
give us
yes
a
po.
checklist kasi that's beyond really the jurisdiction of this committee.
Yes.
So I appreciate your mentioning it because there are 4 senators here. Pero maybe we can breeze through that and then
Yes, sir.
focus on the constitutional amendment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So yeah, we submitted for a presentation last time. So we'll just we will answer questions na lang po based on the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, kasi I think that's for another forum and definitely we want to act on that. Andiyan naman si Chairman Win, si Minority Leader who's also a part of EDCOM. So thank you. Can we hear from Government Academia Industry Network GAIN Executive Director Dr. Genevieve Ledesma Laurel, and then after that we'll hear from ERI, DTI, TESDA, PI, Dr. Albert, PIDS. Maybe after Dr. Laurel, Dr. Albert can speak also. So Dr. Laurel, you have the floor, ma'am.
Good morning, Honorable Chairman and members of the Senate and distinguished guests and my fellow resource persons today. I'm representing Dr. Peter Laurel, Chairman of LPU, Lyceum of the Philippines University, Chairman of Government Academe Industry Network, and also Chairman of the Association of Universities and Colleges in the Pacific. I'd like to I hope that there will be spousal transfer of knowledge during this session. I would like to acknowledge our Senator Gatchalian. We've had sessions with you recommending our advocacy for national targets for English, science, and math, just like the other Asian countries. And it's very easy to check if they are within global standards because it has been set with the government. I also would like to acknowledge Senator Pimentel, who has been our guest in several events of the school. And likewise, Senator De La Rosa, we have a kinship. We come from the same region. And Senator Angara, we've had sessions with you on how to improve our PISA scores using free resources in the net. So thank you very much. But I'm here today to express my position of keeping the current constitution intact, emphasizing the importance of local control over all educational institutions while maintaining global connections without altering the constitution. Let me just share with you that I am coming from Southfield Global Education Network, likewise, as a network of 8 private schools, and have been approached many times by foreign investors to buy in and get control of the school. They have floated actually price earning of PE 6 up to PE 8. And sometimes when you are given a figure of $1 billion, you think twice. You think twice, but in all of those offers, I knew that there were perils if ever I sign up and make a foreign group own a particular school. I look at the curriculum and of one of these supposedly partners, and I checked that for every semester there was indoctrination of ideologies that are not consistent with the democratic principles that we hold dear. And likewise, maybe it will enlighten also our group that the experience of many of these foreign investors is when they make money, they sell it again, and then you have new investors coming in. There is one person right now, today, who is here, and he has told me about the horrendous experiences of foreign investors just looking at it as a business. And when they make their money, and sometimes they leave the institution with millions of debts, hundreds of millions of debts, and they make the institution right now pay for it, and they exit. There is this one person who used to work for this group who is here right now, leaving tomorrow, and he will tell you the horrendous experiences of these aggressive foreign bodies that want to buy educational
Who is that one
institutions.
person? If we could end the mystery, yeah.
He is a foreigner, but I can tell you in private.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
because he told me in confidence what they do and how they damage the schools after leaving and getting
I'm
their
just
money.
curious, why would they damage it if their goal is to sell it? Then it's no longer sellable, or it's no
Yeah,
longer
they sell it. After
after they sell it.
yes,
Ah,
they-
okay.
they
That's a
leave
different
you
story.
with
Yeah.
loans, hundreds of millions of loans,
Right, right.
and then they exit.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, without us knowing, there are already transactions like this going on. It's just not under the radar as of now. But my experience has been, and it's a personal experience, I've talked to many, and they have layered the ownership. And one of them who left this group told me that the money comes from the Middle East. Yeah. So just a personal sharing of an experience that I have. But anyway, I'm here today to highlight the current successes in internationalizing education. And we are advocating for international education and show how Filipinos can access global opportunities without jeopardizing local control. I think our issue right now is not really whether we welcome foreign universities and colleges. Our issue is ownership. And that's what I'm saying. There's a peril to these aggressive foreign investors that will leave you dry after they exit and they sell. And there are many financial transactions that happen. And I'm happy that I did not sell my soul. Yeah, looking back, especially having talked to this person yesterday who was a peddler of these aggressive organizations. But let me tell you that even those that are prestigious schools, in the end, prestigious universities abroad, in the end, it's still, they ask you, is it worth our time and our effort? And let me tell you, because right now, um, actually internationalization is here. uh, there are no barriers obtaining foreign education credentials at this point. The TNE of CHED facilitates transnational education partnerships, allowing foreign schools to offer specific programs in collaboration with existing Filipino institutions without compromising ownership and control over the core educational principles and convictions. Let me tell you three ways wherein we have allowed international universities to coexist with institutions in the Philippines now. The first one is what you call twinning programs. I wish we had the slides because I don't want to go through all of the schools with twinning programs. AAM, for example, offers a global MBA program with dual credentials where students can earn an MBA degree from AIM and also from University of Western Australia. Then you have Thames International. They also have a 2+2 with some universities abroad. You have Mapua, who offers twinning programs with universities in Australia, Canada, and the United States. And we have Southville International School affiliated with foreign universities that offer Pearson and Southern Cross University. And other partners like bachelor's degree from Macquarie University. Then the second type of collaboration is called partnerships. You have the Lyceum of the Philippines University. They foster international connections through partnerships with many universities worldwide, including student and faculty exchanges, collaborative research, internships, short-term to a semester academic and cultural programs, partner universities across the world, Asia, Europe, and Canada. Then we have Southville International School affiliated with foreign universities. By the way, CISFU, we call it CISFU, has been in existence for 28 years. And it's the only transnational education that offers basic education up to master's degree program with a partner school abroad, internationally. So you'll be
What is
surprised.
CISFU? Sorry, I'm not familiar.
Southville International School
South-
affiliated with foreign universities. He said it has been in existence for 28 years, and we offer transnational education from basic ed to master's degree programs, but we retain control of the curriculum, and we only allow these partnerships after having gone through what it is that they will teach our students. You have UST likewise, a long history of international linkages and partnerships. You have Silliman University with a lot of network and academic partnerships across continents. The third, so first is the twinning, wherein they earn a degree from two schools, Philippines and another university abroad. The second is the partnership. It's more loose. It's student exchange. It's research collaboration. It is training of faculty, so forth and so on. Student experiences, student camping. The third one is the more difficult one to do, which Southville is doing. It is franchising. We are franchising. We have franchise with actually two providers, Pearson, UK, and De Montfort University of UK. Franchising, actually, I was just given the definition of franchising by our president and chairman of SFU. It is foreign academic partners agree with the host university in the Philippines to deliver the foreign degree curriculum in the Philippines. The teaching methodology and academic standards are closely monitored by the foreign partners. So let me just tell you more or less how much. And even if they come from they're number one in terms of student experience, De Montfort University, but we have very, very few students. We have only about 200, even if we have been existing for a long time. Let me tell you why. Registration fee is about 75,000 pesos per year or per semester. And program fee is 10,000 pounds or 560,000. And annual fee per student, 53,000. Collaboration review is 20,000 and 20,000 pounds. And every year they come to audit, because remember, the grades come from them, the content of the curriculum comes from them, and the final, they call it a Senate in UK. It goes through several bodies before the grade is given. So we can do an internal grading here, but it is not final. It's only when it comes back. And they get the degree from De Montfort. They can even graduate physically from De Montfort University. But the real universities which have good intentions are expensive. And how does this franchising help? Instead of our students going abroad, they pay here, and so therefore it helps in the economics of the country. So these are the three ways that are being practiced right now, and we have this model for the last 28 years, and it's working. However, because these students are bright, first of all, because UK programs are very, very extensive in terms of critical thinking, but they have the money likewise. There are scholarships going on, but they are limited. So let me talk to you about the MOOCs or the MOOCs. These are massive open line courses. These are offered by Harvard, by Coursera, by Yale, and these are available to every Filipino. You can even put them on the line and have 500 students listen to a Harvard lecturer without having to spend anything, their fees, so forth and so on. Bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degree programs can also be obtained by any Filipino. I have a list of those popular universities that are offering this. And in the end, I would say that the focus should be, from my experience, the balancing of international education with our national identity. Controlling school ownership helps regulate curriculum content, ensuring it aligns with our national values and democratic principles. I'd like to say that the thing that made me really not accept these proposals is the threat of losing our freedoms and our democracy. because the ideologies are not consistent with ours. And it's every semester. And there is no way we can monitor what's going on in the classroom 8 hours a day. Allowing foreign ownership may pose a risk of introducing ideologies inconsistent with our ethos, potentially impacting our commitment to our democratic ideals and freedoms secured by our heroes and our Constitution. While the Philippines seeks to engage in international educational collaborations to enhance its educational system, and I think Dr. Calabo earlier was saying innovation, our unique geopolitical situation necessitates a delicate balancing act. Full foreign ownership of schools raises concerns about the potential erosion of our national identity and cultural heritage. Filipinos must maintain authority to shape educational curricula that reflect our values and traditions. It is essential to safeguard what makes us Filipino and ensure that our educational system reflects our core values of governance anchored on our freedoms. In conclusion, in the intricate tapestry of global education, the Philippines' distinct geopolitical position necessitates a strategic approach, one that harmonizes international collaboration with the preservation of our unique identity and democratic values. These approaches, guided by a commitment to national autonomy, empower Filipinos to embrace global educational experiences without relinquishing control over our educational institutions. As we tread this path, it becomes evident that constitutional amendments are not requisite for safeguarding our democracy, Filipino values, national identity, and cultural heritage. Let our educational landscape be a testament to the harmonious coexistence of global connections and national authenticity. By upholding the current constitution and embracing international collaborations within a controlled framework, we illuminate a path towards a future where the Philippines thrives on the global stage while remaining steadfast in its commitment to democratic ideals, Filipino values, national pride, and cultural wealth and heritage. As a representative of GAIN, Government Academe Industry Network, our advocacy is to develop our Filipino talent so that they can be globally competitive. However, these technology skills and other competency requirements are accessible to the Filipino without full Filipino ownership, without relinquishing full control to non-Filipinos. We have millions of overseas Filipino workers who are grappling with national identity. Let us safeguard and let us ensure that our democratic ideals and cultural heritage are preserved. Thank you.
Thank you. I just noticed we're going on 2 hours, so maybe if we could take a 5 to 10 minute health break with the permission of my colleagues, then we can resume at 12:05, if that's all right. That's 12:05, 12:07, around that time. Thank you. Hearing is suspended. Ladies and gentlemen, can we, I'm not sure if Dr. Padilla was finished already. Would you like to continue, ma'am? And then after Dr. Padilla, Dr. Albert from PIDS. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Padilla.
It's really very short. I just want to request that the reframing of the economic policy does not contradict our.
Sorry, I'd just like to acknowledge our Deputy Minority Leader, Senator Risa Ontiveros, the Chair of the Senate Committee on Women. Morning, good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Chair. Salamat po.
Yeah, go ahead, Doctor.
Magandang hapon po. Ulitin ko lang po. As to close my my statements earlier, we just want us to appeal to the committee that the reframing of the economic policy will not contradict the first Filipino and the Tatak Pinoy. I'm confident that will be the case, but I just want to put it on record. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
We'll not
to-
allow that because we're the
Okay,
author of
I
the
know.
Pinoy.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
definitely will not undermine our own work, Chancellor. In fact, it's meant to be complementary to see how we can benefit from these collaborations rather than lose our people, things like that. No. So thank you. Can we hear from Dr. Albert and after that Attorney Perez and DTI, TESDA, PI. We have Dr. Previous guests also here. Dr. Sikat, we'd like to acknowledge his presence, sir. Anytime, sir, if you want to chime in, please, you're most welcome. And from PACO also, PRC, TESA, and DTI BOI to complete the guests. So, yes, Dr. Albert, please, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, let me point out that we provided already a position paper as requested by the Secretariat. But as I speak now, I'd like to mention that the usual disclaimer that what I say are my own views and do not necessarily reflect those of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies. First, let me point out that as far as as far as I'm concerned, the issue of change. Every time I'm always asked, I'm a very I take things with a view of data. Being a statistician by profession, though I do a lot of policy research. But let me point out that as far as policy changes are concerned, I always say that change always presents significant opportunities, but they also provide potential risks that could impact the nation's immediate as well as long-term future. And in this case, where the chair has already been pointing out that when I was reading actually the language of the current proposed amendments, I was actually confused because I thought this would be the scope would be much bigger than just higher education. But maybe I'm wrong because I'm not a lawyer. My father was a lawyer, and but I'm not one. I'm a statistician by profession, as I mentioned, and I only see data. And anyways, in the case of the education sector, in fact we released just last year, and we made a public webinar about a case on the entire education sector being really broken. There are many problems we face. It's sad to say that the point being raised earlier by Dr. Kulaba that we are very far from the frontiers of innovation. Our labor market, market is fairly unskilled. And so the question is whether the proposed amendments will really help upskill. That's the main point. And while we laud the efforts of our senators, our legislators for trying to think of ways to try to solve all our problems, but at the same time, we also need to take a step back and recognize that the solution to one problem may carry the seed of the next problem. And that's a wisdom that I've learned myself, looking through the history of changes. And as was pointed out, I think by both Dr. Padilla and already Chairman De Vera, that the issue of the barriers to entrance in higher education does not stop in ownership alone, but they sadly go into so many other things, including the faculty appointments, which are a bit worrisome, given that when we think of trying to, as I said, upskill, while there, as what's already pointed out by my next door neighbor here, who she pointed out that there are already many things happening in the higher education sector, and so the question is whether or not the full liberalization will solve more will solve problems or create new ones. It's not easy for us right now because our crystal ball will never really fully show us where things will be. But nonetheless, I would always say that all changes are always welcome. But at the same time, I caution the Congress to also recognize that there will be unintended consequences to whatever changes that we propose. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So you're just saying it's potentially rewarding but also potentially risky. Any position? Because I remember that saying that I think it's President Truman or Eisenhower who wanted a one-handed economist.
Well, I'm not an economist. We do have the father of economics here in the Philippines. But
So basically, in your just to cut things short, cut to the chase, Dr. Albert, you don't feel that constitutional amendments in the education sector are necessary.
well, I think they are.
You think they are?
I
Okay.
think it would be important not just in the education sector across the Constitution for me was written at a time when we needed to strengthen ourselves
Okay.
in certain ways.
Okay.
But that said,
Yeah.
please be careful.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Yeah. Dr. Sikat, you're free to intervene, sir. Because you spoke earlier on the general provisions on the economy and foreign investment, but we welcome your particular insights on this sector.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In fact, I was not sure you really wanted me today because
Apologies, sir. As a matter of procedure, we just go to those who had spoken first, but it took us a while to get to you. But by all means, we're listening, sir.
yes, but I was surprised. I was asked to come for today, and I know the topic is education. I'm very happy to speak on this topic to some extent because I'm an educator. But I also want to say a few things that might be related to the constitutional issues that we are facing. I have looked at a lot of constitutions of different countries, and especially the ones that have been cited in our region and their advances in the educational front. And I noticed, for one, that although education is oftentimes mentioned in in their constitutions as a responsibility or the right of citizens, it is not at all a subject of strictures within the Constitution. This is really strange that we're doing it here in our country. This is my first point, because the educational policies, the running of education is a matter for general legislation, a matter for ordinary legislation in most of these countries. It does not really require a quarreling of among the principals of a country about the fundamental nature of education as a problem of great concern. It is a great concern because we educate our people to improve them, but it is a matter for general legislation. That's the main point. So to some extent, I can say this explains why, to some extent, I say I truly believe that we should be off the fundamental nature of discussing education as if it is something like an iron law to be followed, in which there are specific areas where we have to be bounded by principles. The only principle related to education is that it teaches us nationhood, nation building, love of country, and so on. And that is the role of the government in running the educational sector for our children. Now, the topic mainly, I think today is that of higher education, because this was really designed to look into the effects of of the restrictions on the Constitution on the way we have run our educational system at the tertiary level. I'm glad I listened here today because I heard a lot of things that taught me a number of things, including those things I knew when I was at the UP. When I was at the UP, a lot of things about the difficulties of getting foreigners appointed within the faculty is one of the major items of discussion. And it's amazing that it came as a result of a by-the-by comment of Dr. Padilla that the appointment of people of high quality will require a great burden because of the unintended consequences of the major provisions of our Constitution, which has prevented us from getting the best education. This is the main point. I think overall, it's very easy to see that greater freedom in educational programs, domestically promoted, and even promoted for foreign education of all Filipinos, will help us in upgrading our human skills. But now that we're talking about the liberalization of the restrictions that we have on education, I believe that all the things that we want, like greater innovations in our country, improvement of the scientific skills of our countrymen, the improvement of competition among the institutions doing teaching, the teaching of our youth, the creation of a broader choice for education among parents for their children, and the total upskilling of our labor force are critical to the liberalization of education in the country. I look backward. I think I might be permitted to look backward because I think it's important for us to understand the nature of our backwardness in this area. I call it backwardness because I feel that in the last 20 years, I mean, not 20 years, maybe 40 years, we have lagged slowly behind those countries in the region that had much greater freedom in the educational sector to take advantage of the innovations, the liberality of access to good educational institutions, the liberality of access given by foreign institutions to help us get more resources to get education for the people. About 40 years ago, I think, or maybe 50 years ago, the UP or the Philippines, the Philippine educational system was looked up to as a model within Asia. I think we were far ahead because we were partly benefited by the access to to American dollars, $8 to bring up our country. And then some institutions in the UP, for instance, they became much better off because China had a revolution, and the revolution freed a lot of money from the Rockefeller Foundation, Ford Foundation, and it went partly to the Philippines and so on. I think I probably am a recipient of one of those kinds of things. A poor guy who got to be got a scholarship because of because there was dollar money available, and I think it helped us a lot. I'm not talking of myself. I'm talking of the university itself. the UP became a major institution, bringing forward the country, I think. And the other institutions, the private institutions, they were following, but the UP was far ahead. Los Baños was far ahead. And with all the other kinds of programs that supplemented the gains that the UP had in bringing itself up, it was able to become a force within the Southeast Asian region. We educated the Thais, we educated the Malaysians, we educated the Indonesians, and so on. Today, I think we are far behind them in the educational sector. What brought us to that level? I think now I go back again to my old story. We got restricted, and the restrictions are in the Constitution, and they were there in 1935. We didn't know them, and we imported them into our 1987 revolution and added more because we suspected that some of these some of the restrictions had to be more restricted in some areas. And we are in a time when we discover that we have to reform a lot of things, not only in education. These are the points I'm making. So just look at the. Let me just go into a little review of our Constitution. It has, well, the U.S. Constitution, which is the model, I think, of a brief Constitution, has something like. I took a little analysis of this.
Number of amendments, sir? Are you talking about the number of amendments?
No, I'm talking about the words.
Okay.
About 4,700, excluding the signatures. Ours in 1987 is, I forgot. I have it here.
Much more, much more.
Much more, yes. But I want to get the number right. Sorry, I always forget. Well, they are. I get into this trouble whenever I talk. But okay, with 21,660. I did this myself. The 66 probably you added some of the titles or the date. That's a lot. The preamble is 75 words when we could have said it in 10 words. The Declaration of State Policies, 779 words. Well, we have to declare the policy.
I guess that's why it's called the basic law, sir. It has
Well,
to be basic
yeah.
rather than
The Bill of Rights is
fanciful.
1,442. The Bill of Rights in the U.S. Constitution is so much briefer. And you know, the Bill of Rights in the French Constitution is even briefer than the French Constitution.
The briefest is
Than
the Magna
US
Carta, sir.
Constitution.
The briefest is the Magna Carta of the United
Because
Kingdom.
it just referred to the Magna Carta and so on. The magic of words. But the article on national economy and patrimony, how long is that? 1,745 words. All of the other countries probably have, if they had anything on national economy and patrimony, might have put it at 100 or maybe 45. That's why we're in trouble. I think we got this enlarged in 1987. In 1935 up to 1973, they were probably 1,500. Then The article on social and human rights, 1438. Do you know the Constitution of Indonesia, 1945, according to a summary made in 1987 by the Department of Information of the Indonesian government, makes the I have it in my computer. I don't have it here. But
Sir, you
it is
can come
only-
in at any
yeah,
time, even
but
when
it's
we're,
only
no, just
very
raise your
brief.
hand. Yes,
It's
sir.
only very brief.
Ah.
I tell you, ours is 21,000. The Indonesian Constitution, enlarged by the notations of the Department of Information, was only 1,500 words. That's why they didn't have any time to do all these kinds of special restrictions or special provisions in our Constitution. If we have to amend the Constitution, I guess we have to get a word expert to make it brief. But we are stuck with a long and heavy Constitution. We are here to undertake reviews and amendments and so on. And I know I know you're stuck with the words, and so you're just trying to make introductions of amendments so that you have to amend certain provisions with unless provided by law, etc. So as not to destroy the wordings of the Constitution. But I heard some wiser men one of our justices who said, perhaps in some areas we should strike them out, abolish them, and abolish certain words or provisions so that we can make it simpler. The magic that is in your hand is how to do between the unless provided for or the striking out of the provision so that we make it simpler. But let me just make that point. Thank you very much.
That's very useful, and we appreciate the scholarship and the perspective, Dr. Sikat. Salamat po.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Senator Bato.
siguro kung i-translate natin yung 1987 Constitution into Filipino and or Bisaya, baka maging times 3 pa, sir, yung number of words. Ano maging times 3 pa? I-translate natin, Mr. Chairman.
Dapat ikaw yung translator para umiksi. Senator Bato. Kasi magaling si Senator Bato, paiksiin yung mga issue.
I wish I could read the little note that I had wanted to read. It's in my computer.
Sir, you can retrieve it, and then at any time we'll allow you
Yeah,
to come in.
I will
Yes, sir.
email it to you if you like.
Yes, please. Yes.
It's a commentary comparing the Indonesian Constitution with reference to the Philippine Constitution.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Sikat. That's much appreciated. Can we hear from the IRI, or International Rice Research Institute? We have Attorney Perez with us. Attorney Perez, good afternoon. Thank you for waiting.
Magandang umaga, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. And thank you for inviting IRI. I'm here on behalf of our Director General, Dr. Ajay Kohli, who's unfortunately away on research business abroad. So that being said, Mr. Chair, let me just share first what is the nature of IRI. We are an international organization. We are neither private nor public. I think we belong to that gray area of international organizations, which is neither UN. In a sense, we are owned by the 19 countries that signed the 1995 International Agreement recognizing our international legal personality, and chief of which is the Philippines. And IRI is headquartered in the Philippines, truly a source of Filipino pride. In the agreement, it is stated there that the depositary of our international agreement is the Philippine Department of Foreign Affairs. Notwithstanding that, and being headquartered in the Philippines, we do have 10 other host country agreements, and some of them are in our Southeast Asian neighbors, like Indonesia hosts us, Vietnam hosts us, Cambodia, Laos, and some other countries in South Asia. We have two trustees who are Filipinos. They are the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture and the UP President. So they sit in our board and they are part of our governance. While we are not for the purposes of this hearing, Mr. Chair, we are not an educational institution. So we are not your competitors. We are purely a research organization and we are friends with everybody. In fact, our charter mandates that we are apolitical. In fact, I've cautioned even some of our officers that we don't involve ourselves in local politics, whether in the Philippines or other countries. We do not try to dictate policy. It is up to the countries to decide. The same way we do our research po. We do our research, but it's up to the countries to deploy our research or if they want to use it. And our board chair now is Dr. Cao Du Phat. He's Vietnamese, used to be the secretary, or they call them the Minister of Agriculture in Vietnam. And he always proudly says that 80 to 90% of the rice scientists in Vietnam were trained at IRI. And that gives us always a source of pride. And I take this opportunity to confirm what Chancellor Camacho said, that we have close collaboration. In fact, we are hosted by the University of the Philippines at Los Baños. That's where our research fields and headquarters seats are located. And part of our collaboration is sharing our expertise with UPLB and even the Philippine government through PhilRice. So that being said, we have not seen any provision in the present Philippine Constitution that hinders our ability to collaborate, share expertise, and work with our national partners. Hopefully none will be forthcoming. So that, Mr. Chair, is our statement. And again, thank you for inviting us and allowing us the opportunity to present our views.
You know, the common or the conventional wisdom is that so many of the agricultural ministers and rice scientists from Thailand, Vietnam were educated at IRI. And the difference being that they were better at adapting the technology provided by IRI than the Philippines. At building the ecosystem, blah, 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 adapting technology, blah, blah. Do you confirm that, sir?
We have, well, ganito po yun, Senator. It's a controversial thing because it might place in a position that we make judgment on a country, which we cannot do. But
You don't have to put down anyone, but you can just state the facts.
well, yes, some of the scientists have adopted. Some have adopted well, some have not. We've always, one question that always comes to us po is that we're always asked, how come we're importing rice? And we always say we cannot answer that because that's not within IRI's mandate, objectives, or even supplemental powers. We're just here to do research and give our technologies. In fact, our technologies, our IP, are public goods. But we also seek to protect them defensively, mind you, so that it's not unnecessarily
IP or
exploited.
IT, sir?
IP po.
Intellectual property.
Yes.
Okay.
The fruits of research.
So patents for certain varieties of rice?
We have patents, but as I always say, it's defensive in nature so that it's not exploited and unduly made exclusive by a third party to the detriment of the general public.
And okay, you seem to be you're playing safe, sir. Sorry, and I understand why. But in terms of adoption of patents, for instance, can you give us the facts for countries?
I can give you the data. I don't have the data with you right now, Senator.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Can you? We'll just ask for the data na lang.
Yes.
Yung how you measure. I'm sure you have performance indicators on the part of IRI, and I'm sure countries have their own performance indicators. But on using your performance indicators, could you submit to the committee how countries have adapted, or your recommendations have become mainstream policy in their countries, Attorney Perez, para you don't get into trouble. We'll submit nyo lang in paper, please.
No problem, Senator. But if I may mention, a recent study was made, I think it's 2023, but it's CGIAR wide. IRI is one of 14 other international agricultural research institutions under the umbrella which we call the Consultative Group of International Agricultural Research Organizations, or CGIAR. And a study was recently made. In fact, I downloaded the study on the impact of CGIAR research on countries. And that includes from rice and the crops that CGIAR research as a whole include ones that were very common with garbanzos, sorghum, millet, rice, wheat, corn, potato. So these are diverse crops wherein research is trying to bring to fruit how we can make these crops more either productive or make farm or increase the impact for small landholder farmers.
We'll appreciate the reference to the study and then any other information, sir. Salamat po. Salamat po. Can we hear from DTI, Philippine Trade Training Center Director Nelly Diliera? Ma'am, thank you again for waiting.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Your Honors. We're actually supporting the proposed legislation because the objective is to elevate education standards by empowering universities and higher educational institutions to establish international campuses in specific countries globally. This legislation creates chances for students in the Philippines spanning diverse socio-economic backgrounds to receive high-quality education overseas, broadening the range of knowledge and expertise they can acquire. Moreover, it permits Philippine educational institutions to build connections and partnerships with foreign universities and higher education entities, facilitating the unrestricted flow of information, personnel, and academic programs. The law encourages innovation, fosters collaboration, and improves competitiveness in the higher education. And while we are attracting investors, we should also entice international students to study here. Hence, the need for the Philippine education to become competitive. And we are particularly advocating the Philippine Skills Framework towards this end. The Philippine Skills Framework, as you may have heard, it is actually a reference document that's composed of career map, skills map that also indicates this description of a particular job role, the key tasks, critical functions, as well as the set of skills and competencies for a particular job role. And these are documents, reference documents that can actually guide and be made use of by the different educational institutions or even training institutions in updating the curriculum and even the modules. Because this is contextualized by industry players and at the same time referenced on international standards. So we are advocating the Philippine Skills Framework because it holds significant importance to transnational higher education by providing a standardized and globally aligned set of skills essential for the development of competitiveness of graduates. This framework serves as a quality assurance mechanism, ensuring consistency and excellence across educational programs and institutions operating in diverse international settings. By incorporating industry-relevant competencies, the framework caters to the needs of both global and local job markets, enhancing the employability of graduates. Moreover, it facilitates the mobility of students and professionals across borders as the skills acquired align with international standards, fostering a more interconnected and adaptable workforce. By the way, Your Honor, the DTI will actually be coming up its position paper. This is just for the Philippine Trade Training Center. We also have our colleagues here, of course, from TESDA and of course from the Board of Investments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. TESDA, Legal Officer Attorney Lani Cipres Salazar. Ma'am, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. The authority is amenable to the proposed amendments on the certain economic provisions of the 1987 Constitution. Since the mandate of the authority is to develop, supervise, and regulate tourism enterprise zone with the primary objective of encouraging investments and to develop and manage infrastructure projects, and the principal agency for the collection of travel tax, 50% of which is allocated for TIEZA, and out of which 5% of which is earmarked for the development of historic, cultural, religious, and heritage sites and prime tourist destinations, and another 5% for the development of ecotourism sites in depressed provinces with strong tourism potentials. Hence, allowing foreign investments here in the Philippines will help in sustainable economic growth and national competitiveness. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Attorney. Senior Immigration Officer, Board of Immigration, Anthony Cabrera. Yeah. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Chair. To the honorable senators, magandang tanghali po. On behalf of the commission of my commissioner, Honorable Norman Tansinko, the Bureau of Immigration on Senate resolution on both houses number 6 entitled Resolution on Both Houses of Congress proposing amendments on certain economic provisions of the 1987 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines, particularly on Articles 12, 14, and 16. The BI poses no objection to Senate resolution of both houses number 6 on amendments on certain economic provisions of Article 12, 14, and 16 of the 1987 Constitution. The BI also strongly supports the goal of the government to attract more foreign investments, create jobs, and spur development. The BI shall continually work with appropriate government agencies to strengthen the government's objective in regulating economic sectors that can be open to foreign investors. Thank you.
Salamat po, Officer Cabrera. Salamat po. Can we hear from the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities, TIP Associate Joshua Alexander Calaguas? I think you've spoken already in the previous hearing, no? Yeah. Oh, anything new? I think, did you ask for time for a position paper? I think you asked for time, no, to come up with a consolidated position. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Your Honor. Actually, Your Honor, the invitation to the Philippine Association of Colleges and Universities was extended to the TIP. Unfortunately, they are not able to bring to give a representative, and so we are here to represent their views. We understand, Your Honor, that the TIP was invited because of the question on TechBook and the probability of building a TechBook industry in our country, or a TechBook hub in our country. However, Your Honor, we respectfully manifest that TIP is not a TechBook institution. It does not offer technical vocational courses. However, Your Honor, if I may take this time, because we have talked to some of our members, and we're still in the process of consolidating all the very important insights of our members. However, our members are of the view, and we support the COCOPEA's view of opposing the amendments, in particular to those that lift the foreign equity restrictions in the Constitution. We will be submitting our position paper, Your Honor, by the end of the week, as soon as we finish the consolidated reports of our members. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Can we hear from PRC, Director Comafe and Division Chief Rosales? Yeah. Anything new from your, are they here?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, hello. Anything new from your side?
From our side, we still maintain the same position as we provided in the last hearing.
Okay, thank you. PESA, Group Manager Attorney Jenny June Romero.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
thank you for waiting.
And to all the members of this honorable committee. What is new with PESA, Your Honor, is that what is relevant for this meeting is our KIST, what we call the Knowledge, Information, and Science and Technology Parks. PESA concurs with the move to amend the economic provisions of the Constitution and open some industries to foreign participation. This move to lift the economic restriction in the Constitution is essential in this era of globalization and pivotal to advance in the race with our ASEAN neighbors in attracting foreign direct investments. Under our present administration, PESA has diversified and redirected its strategy in economic zone development, in line with its new thrust of eco-zoning the Philippines towards inclusive growth and sustainable development. Your Honors, under this new strategy of PESA, while preserving the dependable traditional land-based manufacturing economic zones, PESA will now embark in new frontiers of economic zone development. Some of these new economic zones are what we call the blue economy, aquamarine, smart cities, mega eco zones, And as I said earlier, what is relevant in this meeting is the KIST. It is the Knowledge, Information, and Science Technology Parks. What are these KIST parks? KIST parks, this will be established in the lands of campuses.
Sorry, what type of park is that? Sorry?
It is KIST, Your Honor. KIST,
Knowledge,
Information, Science, and Technology
okay.
Parks. These economic zones will be located in big tracts of land in our HEI, higher education institution, because we have state colleges and universities who have big tracts of lands, Your Honor, and these are just lying around. They are idle, they are wasted. So
We're in danger of being land reformed because
Yes,
the DAR
sir.
is already claiming it's government lands kasi wala
So-
nang private. So
sir, so
mga
these
SUC lands na ang kinukuha nila. So you have to, I think you have to, tama yung policy nyo. Sorry for interrupt.
Yes, sir. So these SUCs, they could come to PEZA and have this declared as an economic zone. And these KIST parks or KIST eco zones, they will be developed in order to strengthen and to give teeth and to give fruition to all these innovation, science, and technology initiatives of the country. The Philippine Economic Zone Authority, under our Director General Teresa Opanga, who went with the president in Australia, Your Honors, to promote the country. And with DOST and PEZA, we inked a MOA last year in August for the establishment of these KIST eco zones. These KST parks will play a significant role in increasing the research and development infrastructure, fostering collaboration in R&D with foreign partners, facilitating technology transfer, and upskilling our workforce towards
Meron na ho
innovation.
tayo niyan? Meron na.
So we have one already. We have
Saan
the
po?
Batangas State University.
Okay.
And this is very operational now. And in
Where
fact,
located? We're in Batangas City?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Batangas City?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And in fact, it has been doing very good collaboration with our industries because some of our export companies, they engage
Nasa Batangas din.
Yes, sir.
Sa Tanawan and Santo Tomas.
the economic zones which are located near Batangas University.
What are the eco zones in Batangas? As I'm aware of the Tanawan and Santo Tomas one.
We
What?
have FPIP, Your Honor.
Yeah, that's FPIP. What are the
So
others?
some of our economic zones located there who need immediate skilled, what they call this?
Workers. Yeah.
They partner with Batangas University so that the moment that these graduates will already be ready for employment, they are already absorbed by
That's
these
good.
economic zone
That's good.
companies. We also have 3 in the offing. We have De La Salle, Lyceum, and the other one in Perpetual, the I Alta Hub.
What's the third one? Sorry.
I Alta Hub, Your Honor, under Perpetual Health.
Saan po yun?
I think in Laguna also.
Okay.
These KIST IT parks also is envisioned to be a center for technology transfer and commercialization and a platform to integrate various science, technology, and innovation initiatives in the region. Your Honor, on this context, on this note, PESO supports the amendment of the mentioned economic provisions in the Constitution to generate substantial investor interest to relevant industries and heighten the country's competitiveness in attracting foreign direct investments. We likewise move and support the implementation of needed safeguards so that the country's national interest, sovereignty, and security will not be compromised while in the pursuit of our investment promotion agenda. Thank you very much. Your
Thank you very
Honors.
much. It's very encouraging, Attorney Romero. DTI BOI, Acting Division Chief Dino Recto. Good afternoon, sir.
Mr. Chair and members of the Senate, honorable ladies and gentlemen, the BOI's position is aligned with the position of our mother agency, the DTI, which supports the call to amend economic provisions of the 1987 Constitution. Given that the Constitution is a framework that provides fundamental principles of our government, we need a forward-looking policy direction to develop the Philippine industries and at the same time protect our national interests. The amendment will enable Congress to enact laws necessary to implement reforms necessary for economy. And with that, Mr. Chair, we would like to emphasize that liberalization of some of the sectors, for example, in our renewable energy, we had the BOI recorded growth with the RE sector when it was liberalized. From 2020 to 2022, it only had 423 billion pesos in approved investments. But after the liberalization, the RE approved investments surged to 1,088,979 pesos. With that base benchmark, we can also look forward to the other sectors having growth in investments as well.
Thank you. There are no other resource persons, but I'd like to throw this question particularly to the DTI, BOI, PESA. You were saying that we have these KIST zones, and I think that's a very, very positive development. And you're providing the existing needs of the workforce needs of the locators and investors. But what about the more advanced type of thinking? Like, who do we want to attract here? Because that's also a new provision or a new way of thinking or philosophy in the CREATE law na mas targeted yung incentives natin. So I guess you want to flip that question around. Who are we targeting? Diba? Because I'm reminded of the news for the last few weeks. NVIDIA, which is one of the biggest companies in the world, it's overtaken Amazon, which Amazon, of course, is supposed to be the new economy. That type of not producing anything, but providing a platform for goods and services. So parang I'm wondering if that's a symbolic change in the economy, in the world economy, when NVIDIA overtakes Amazon. NVIDIA, of course, is driven by the artificial intelligence or the AI boom, and they're also into gaming, robotics, among others. So along those lines, what is the thinking there in the DTI, the BI, the BOI, the PESA, and anyone from Science, R&D, and the SNT network can chime in. Mr. Recto,
Chair.
yeah, Chief.
Mr. Chair, if we look at the BOI's and DTI's positioning strategy, we can't. Our promotions department can provide you the companies themselves that we're trying to promote or attract to invest in the Philippines. But in general terms, when we look at sectors, our priority sectors examples are electric vehicles, smart high-tech light manufacturing. So if you remember some of the vacuum cleaners and the high-tech appliances that we already attracted into the Philippines, that's one of the examples or the benchmarks that we can provide. We also prioritize outsourced semicon assembly and tests, green metals, those developing copper, cobalt for green and sustainability-driven products like the batteries for electric vehicles. We also we're trying to attract high-tech agriculture, renewable energy, data centers.
Nothing on AI. Nothing on
Telecommunications.
AI.
That would go to the high-tech.
High-tech. But I think you should put that, you should separate it because that changes everything. Diba? And then it changes the whole education landscape. It changes the whole business landscape. In effect, it's already changing it, in fact.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Actually, the general positioning strategy of the BOI is to make the Philippines a regional hub for smart, sustainability-driven manufacturing and services. When we say smart, AI is already considered in that regard. If you also look in the Strategic Investment Priorities Plan, the technologies of the Fourth Industrial Revolution is provided the highest incentives among the activities.
Any takers so far?
Not yet. There might be some. I'm not yet at liberty to say. I have to go back to my principles to provide an
Can you
answer,
provide
Mr.
na lang, ano? Can you give us some feedback on that? Because the CREATE law was passed in
2021, April 11.
2021. I think it took a time for the IRR to also be formulated. And there were a lot of debates there. So I understand why it's a little slow to materialize now. Yes, Dr. Padilla, is it on this topic?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
We're not yet in the radar of this team, but as I said earlier, UP Manila is setting up a science and technology park at the new Clark City. We're actually in discussion with TTI as we
The PESA
speak right
zone,
now.
it's a PESA zone, I
Yes,
assume, no? Yeah,
yes.
okay.
And just to answer the question on the how to attract the locators, we have to understand how we can be competitive by benchmarking with science parks overseas. So I personally have visited several science parks in Europe and in Asia, and I can see that one major factor is actually the incentives that we give to locators to come to the Philippines. So for our case, for the UP Manila Science Park, we have a consultation on April 2. We're bringing in about 40 to 50 locators who we think will follow our thrust. So this is health. And I'm glad that you raised the issue of AI because we're going to focus on diagnostics. We have identified the therapeutics that we want to focus in, specifically those that have been neglected by the country, because we're just focused on the common ones, but there are new technologies that can be addressed. And definitely AI is actually in our agenda. So if we want to bring in local, not only international, but not only foreign, but even local investors, we need to understand what they need because there is a community that we have to serve. In the language of the Science and Technology Park, it's already a quinto helix. There are 5 components to a successful Science and Technology Park. One is the academic pillar, and that means we need all the universities, both private and government, to provide the new knowledge. The second point will be the government, and that will be DOST, DTI, DA, DOH, and so on. The third will be the civil environment. The last one is actually environment, civil society, and one that's always overlooked is industry. So as we visited different science parks in more developed countries, some of them realized that they should have brought in industry from the very beginning. So if we really want to attract both local and foreign investments into our science parks, we have to understand the needs of the locators. And I'm more than happy to share workshops, materials that we have gotten from the meetings that we have attended.
Please,
But-
please, please.
but
Can
we
you
will
share
do
with us
that.
some of the ones you visited? Sino po yung when you're modeling?
Um,
And then also on the
yes,
Quinto Helix,
yes.
you mentioned
Oh,
4.
yes,
Who's the
yes.
5th?
So academe,
Yeah.
government,
Yeah.
Industry,
Civil environment.
civil society.
Who's the 5th?
Civil society environment is the 5th one.
Okay.
So I have materials on this topic, which I will be happy to share. We visited actually Malaga Science and Technology Park, which is more than 30 years in collaboration with the University of Malaga. And they definitely, this is the base of the International Association of Science and
In
Technology
Spain,
Parks.
Malaga in Spain.
Yes, we went to Seville, we went to Granada, and the very last one that we visited actually was Singapore. And I mean, you know, I've seen Singapore from ground zero, and there are many lessons. We don't have to go far. We can learn from them. I'll be more than happy to share these materials with the group, with DTI, and also with your committee.
Yeah, I'll recognize Dr. Albert, but first I want to finish with the. How about is Silicon Valley still a model? The biotech hub in Massachusetts, for
Yes,
instance. Are
definitely.
those models you're looking?
Yes, definitely, Your Honor. It's just that we're familiar with them. So we wanted to look at the other
I see,
models. There are 400 science parks in the International Association of Science Parks, non-registered from the
How
Philippines.
about China? Did you look at China?
No, but I'm aware. So I actually know the model in Asia because when we set up the Philippine Genome Center, we already looked at the different models. That's why we decided to go outside.
That's
Um,
because you're talking about health and I guess medical related,
Yes.
science related technologies. But one of the biggest is Shenzhen. I mean, that whole eco zone there. Di ba?
Yes,
Are you
yes.
looking at that?
Maybe in another, if we had the budget to go to all the places, so we had to prioritize where
Okay.
we were going to use the budget. But I will recommend visiting science parks to see how they actually move forward. I will share one story because this is, I think, going to be important for the locators. There was one big company that was about to locate actually in a science park in Spain on the last minute. That was taken by a country in Asia. And the only thing that spelled the difference
Vietnam or
was
is that Vietnam or Singapore?
Singapore.
Singapore.
It was basically the taxes. we have to really look at the policy if you want to come here.
It was not a Taylor Swift concert.
No, it was not a Taylor Swift concert. But we have so many lessons we picked up along the way, and I'm more than happy to actually share them with the committee.
Okay, thank you. I will appreciate the information on that. Yes, attorney.
Mr. Chair, regarding your question on what kind of industries that we wish to locate in these KIST or KST economic zones, we already have formulated the guidelines as regards the development or the establishment of these KIST eco zones. And for this, we want our locators to be involved on the following industries. They will be involved in R&D and innovation, areas of biotechnology, food and nutrition, agriculture, engineering, electronics, robotics, renewable energy, transport solutions, data analytics, artificial intelligence. Just for the information of the body, although it is not part of the KIST economic zone, just recently PESA was able to get or register a company that is engaged in biotech, what do you call this, biotech industry. This is Green Energy with Torrefaction Technology Inc. company, wherein they would get all of these invasive mga damo grasses. We have the buyo-buyo, and because of technology, they will convert this into energy, Your Honor.
Great, that's something we need. But you're thinking naman in terms of supply chains, di ba? Upstream, downstream. Para hindi lang in isolation, because there's many cases of giving incentives, very generous incentives, but it fails because there's no complementarity within the supply chains. So ganun naman tayo mag-isip ngayon.
Yes, sir. Because we are the DG, his trust now is to provide the best ecosystem in the economic
Okay,
zones.
great,
Yes,
great.
sir.
Kasi yan ang reason natatalo tayo sa kotse, and it might be the reason we lose again in EVs because China has everything there, you know. So if we don't think in those terms, then, or at least where we slot in, no? Baka kahit meron tayong momentary opening, baka matalo rin tayo in the long run, di ba? Hindi sustainable. Yeah, Dr. Albert, you're raising your hand. And after that, we'll go to Mr. Santos, the president and co-founder of Thames International Business School.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just remember that last year, the PIBS had as part of our theme for our annual public policy conference, the emerging twin economy, where we're twin transition, where we're recognizing a much more greener and more digital future. And I suppose many of our government agencies, including DTI, have already started to think about at least the digital part, and they've come up with specific roadmaps but even me, I'm wondering, because I always look at data, and I'm wondering to what extent can we benchmark ourselves relative to other countries. But I'm glad that right now I'm doing a little bit of work on the green economy, but sadly, out of 9 countries in ASEAN, we're number 6. Of course, we're not calculating Brunei here, but so I'm really saddened to see that if we're taking as far as at least the greener part, we're not preparing ourselves yet.
Why is that?
Well, there's so many things. I guess part of the reason is that the environment isn't really in our paradigm most of the time. There's a very big difference. Even now, we think of even the middle class. We're trying to grow the middle class, reduce poverty. They're practically synonymous. But many people in the middle class, the very first thing, in fact, even in Ambition 2040, when people were saying, we want to be a middle class society where no one is poor, the first thing that they want is coche, to have a car. It's in our mindset that sadly we think of these kinds of things, but we don't think of the repercussions of having cars rather than having to use public transport. I mean, how many of even our government officials, including us, how many of us use public transport rather than putting more problems to the economy by using our private cars? So those are things that sadly are not in our mindset yet, and more so when you keep talking about climate change. At the end of the day, what does climate change means to us? Many of us don't realize that we need cleaner energy. We need to do many things, but it's not yet
Did you factor in that O yung ranking 6, what year was that?
2022.
So na-factor na ba yung sinabi ni who said that? The BOI, yung renewable energy investments worth
Hindi
1.88
pa eh. Hindi pa kasi parang
hours.
feeling ko we're still not
So medyo
there yet.
magbabago yun, di ba? Kasi from
We're
20
not yet.
billion,
Yeah,
naging
maybe
1
a
trillion.
little bit. I mean, little by little, we're getting
Yeah,
there.
so maybe
but
nga medyo delayed lang tayo.
yeah,
But,
we're delayed there. And
so
I
give
I
us your
guess-
recommendations on how to further that, sir. How to move that ranking along, Dr. Albert. No,
Right
not now, but because again, we want to be focused on the issue at hand.
Yeah,
But
well-
that concerns us.
Well, for me, the part of the issue is really also data because it's so hard even in government to try to ask where things are. We tend to think that data is so easy that
Yeah.
you know.
So again, sir, give us a laundry list, but now is not the time to make it a gripe session against
Sure.
government shortcomings. No?
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Next, I'll get back to you, Dr. Padilla. I saw you raising. I was told by Senator Risa you're raising your hand. We just have one more resource person, Mr. Joel Santos. He's the president and co-founder of Thames International Business School. On his online. Yeah. Hi, Mr. Santos. Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, Senator Angara, and to the other participants. So I was asked to comment whether I'm please correct me if I'm wrong, that whether I'm in favor of having 100% foreign ownership for higher education institutions and TechVo. Am I right, Senator?
Yes, this is a hearing on the possible liberalization of the economic provisions of the Constitution. Referring one of these is the provision on educational institutions on ownership, control, management. But it also it's wide enough to encompass teaching also profession. So we'd appreciate your feedback given your work in this sector, sir.
So yeah, just as a background for those who are, I am currently a Philippine-owned 100% TED and DepEd accredited. However, we were one of the pioneers of transnational education, particularly in having foreign degree type partnerships. We've been doing this since 1999. So why do I do that? So as a model, I have about 7 university partners in the UK, Australia, Singapore, and the US. And even though I'm able to give my own Philippine degrees, my students have the option to graduate among my 7 partner universities. And why do I do that? On a twinning program, which is the technical term, meaning 2 years in the Philippines and 2 years in my partner universities. So why, even though I'm a degree granting institutions, why do I let my students choose where to graduate among my foreign university partners? And the reason is that we as a Philippine institution do not have all of the expertise and resources to provide our students the education they need for the skills of the future. So for example, my partners, like the University of North Carolina, have a degree in biotechnology. I mean, I don't have a degree in biotechnology, and I wouldn't even dare do a degree in biotechnology. My other partners would have a bachelor's degree in data analytics. So again, I would not dare to do that just to have a degree on data analytics, because the fact is we don't have the lecturers and the expertise in the Philippines. So one of my other partners even has a bachelor's degree in entertainment technology. That's under the state of Pennsylvania, Millersville University of Pennsylvania. So again, these are not degrees that.
Who is your partner for data analytics, Mr. Santos?
Almost all of my partner universities, their
Also
business. All of them would have a business administration major in data analytics.
I see.
All of them.
And
So
yung sa
it's,
Pennsylvania? Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up with what you said.
University of Pennsylvania, Millersville University of Pennsylvania, bachelor's degree in entertainment technology.
Entertainment technology, okay.
So, those, for example, are critical for our creative economy, right? As we digitize our creative industry. So those kinds of what I call new skills for the workforce of future are not some things we can teach now. So that is the reason why I have global partners. Now, if I look at the situation in the region, and then I will have my conclusion of whether I'm in favor or not. when I go to Malaysia and my other institutional friends there, Malaysia has, in the region, Singapore is known as the first education hub. The second one is Malaysia. So Malaysia has now a target of 250,000 foreign students by 2026. There are currently between 150 to 180 based on the unofficial numbers of the Malaysian government. And the reason they're able to attract these foreign students of 100 is because they have allowed Australian universities, such as the very first one who was entered was Monash University, and several other foreign universities from the UK and Australia have set up shop in Malaysia. So what this has done is they have become now a education hub after Singapore. And then India, just last November 2022-2023 has just announced their new national education policy, allowing foreign universities to set up in-country campuses. So again, from a business perspective, I look at it now, maybe there's more competition. But from a nationalistic perspective, I believe that just like our neighbors, Malaysia, Singapore, and now India, we should really allow the entry of foreign education institutions to set up in-country campuses because we do not have the same ability and resources to be able to provide the needed knowledge and technology for the skills of the future. Of course, there are certain parameters, right? For example, if I could just share the India policy, they will not accept a foreign university unless that foreign university is in the top 500 in the global rankings, right? So they're not gonna allow a diploma mill to enter the Philippines. So they will choose them among the top 500. So there are ways to allow foreign universities, and our other country neighbors, our neighboring countries have already set up policies that I think we should learn from. So that's just my input, Sen, and to the other senators in there is that I do agree that we should let foreign universities enter the Philippines. As long as we have the right parameters to ensure that they really add value to our objective to once again become a knowledge capital in our region.
Thank you. That's very good. Very useful. Yes, Chancellor from UPLB. Yeah.
So,
Camacho.
Mr. Chair, let me add that in the adding of value, as mentioned by Chancellor Padilla and the previous speakers, we are in that direction of providing that value. For instance, similar to the KISS project of the Department of Trade and Industry, our proposed agro-industrial park in UPLB, a TESDA zone credited, and also our 10,000 hectare UP land grant is potential for these kinds of investments where this higher
Aren't you
education-
already partnering sa UP with the some of the energy producers
Yes,
just sa
sir.
may sa land grant?
sa land grant we
Yeah.
have the
Parang there's a wind farm or something.
that's
no?
right, sir.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's good. That's good.
Now
Oh.
negotiation. But every time that we receive visitors, ambassadors, there are potential talks. If I may refer to Senator De La Rosa's remark earlier, that in addition to the partnership that is being proposed, yung iba pong mga proposals would be in these types of partnerships, meaning, well, if you may call them investment proposals, no, where there'll be interplay or engagement of our faculty and students to come up with a project in this agro-industrial park. So that would be I would say the value creation that can be put into this agro-industrial park and the land grant that UPLB has.
Thank you. We'll go back to Dr. Padilla, then we'll ask a question of Dr. De Vera regarding some of the more geographically specific needs of maybe industry, like for instance in Caraga, which is one of the, if the administration is planning on opening up mining and processing, I want to look at the value, we're talking about value added. Importante yung skills of mining engineers, metallurgical engineers, among others. So we'll go back to you after Dr. Padilla, Dr. De Vera, in case you want to say something about that. Yeah, Dr. Padilla.
This is really just to wrap up the supply process, because we were talking about the tertiary education, getting the knowledge done, and then we got to the point of talking about KISS. Now, this will not work if we have that last part not addressed, and that is actually the policy on buying the products of our science parks. It's going to be addressed by the procurement amendment. So I'm hopeful that that will complement all this conversation, because we cannot be dependent on people from other countries coming here to work in the science parks. So we need the higher education for that component. But if government will not buy the products, we're back to zero. And from the experience of the science parks in our neighboring countries, the GDP, it can research and science and technology through research from higher education, HAIs, contribute to as much as 4% of the GDP. That is actually the goal that we want to achieve.
Where are we now? Where are we now?
Oh, very low.
Not even
No,
point,
yes.
point
No, not
1%.
because the budget for research is so low. So if I mean just look at the lessons we've learned, if we really put investment on higher education, producing the researchers, producing the products, and then getting government to be one of the major buyers, then even among ourselves, we will be able to contribute to the economy of the country. One of our
That's what you said is the goal of the Tak Pinoy. It's to
yes,
create precisely those. That's why there's provisions for government
yes.
procurement there.
I cannot say which country, but allow me to share this part, because this country is just at the same level as we are. But the economic strategy that they've realized is that they've set up the science parks. They have more unicorns than the Philippines, but they realize they don't have to look at foreign market for their products, because they have 160 million population, and they have to study their internal processes for buying the products of their local researchers. So I think we need everybody, from the HAIs producing all of our graduates and the new ideas, but all the way to the policy of buying our own products. And I look forward to the amendments on procurement, because that will complement what we're discussing today. Thank you.
And we're already in an advanced stage on that, Dr. Padilla, because you've been very active there. Dr. De Vera, anything to say on that? And what is CHED's policy with respect to the collaboration with the industry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just two short points. The first one is in terms of creating these enterprise zones. I was working in the United States, in California, when this was initiated in the 1980s as a strategy to revitalize communities that are relatively poor by creating what they called enterprise zones, so that locators can go there, be freed from government regulations, be given certain incentives. I think the point I'd like to raise is there was a study done by Stanford University at that time, where they interviewed the locators in the enterprise zones on what made them decide to locate in those enterprise zones. The surprising finding of the study is that it is not the volume of incentives that was critical, but the correct mix of incentives. This is a 1980s study done of locators in enterprise zones in California. And the number one, or not number one, maybe one or two most important elements that they were asking for was the workforce that they will hire in their companies. So that is where universities really come in. So the problem in California at that time was that the areas being offered as enterprise zones did not have the manpower that was needed because the conventional thinking was you provide a lot of incentives and locators will come in. But those locators were saying it's not the volume but the correct mix, particularly the human resource that they will hire. I think that is instructive for our discussion. This is a very old study in the 1980s span. Of course, the concept of enterprise zones have evolved since then. But I think it is critical that our universities recognize their role in partnering with industry, in improving their facilities, their resources, because even if PESA offers this to state universities and colleges, one major limitation is that our SOCs, instead of developing niches where they can really be very good, they tend to become or they want to be comprehensive universities. Instead of focusing on their core niche, what they measure their success in terms of how many degree programs they can offer. We've been pushing them to rationalize their degree programs. We've not been very successful in many areas kasi ang thinking, abang mas madami kang degree program, mas university ka. Where in fact, universities that develop a very strong niche would be areas where enterprise zones can succeed because that is where industry will come in and partner with them. So that is what I'd like to contribute. We thank Congress because for 2 years now, Congress has put a special provision in the GAA instructing TED to rationalize the degree programs of our state universities and colleges. So we've been trying, but this is a product of so many years, Mr. Chair. And it's not very easy to make the universities focus on niches.
Congressman pa ako, Dr. De Vera, napag-uusapan na yan.
Yes,
Standardization.
I remember we were
Yung
talking about
typology,
it
etc.
before. Yeah.
Lumang usapan na yan. It must be very difficult.
Yes.
But maybe CHED also has to look at the incentives it provides to higher learning institutions. Because to be considered a center of excellence or center of, what's the other one? COT? Development. You need to have certain number of programs na accredited, di ba? To enjoy a certain degree of academic freedom, meaning hindi na kayo babalik sa CHED para ma-accredit kayo for certain courses. Baka yun ang reason why they want to be university. So be able to attain those informal seals of approval, di ba? Yun ang tingnan natin siguro.
Yes.
But I agree with you regarding your mention of the old study. It may be an old study, but it still holds true, I think, that really what attracts is the mix of incentives, not just the single. There's fiscal, there's non-fiscal, there's non-monetary incentives. So dapat yun ang buong kabuuan nun ang tinitingnan po natin. And I totally agree with you. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, you mentioned about Caraga State University. They have very strong programs in mining engineering and geology. 2 degree programs where the demand is not just domestic, it is international. We are trying to encourage some of the other technology schools to do the same. Caraga's gone very far in terms of geology programs. Aside from UP, Caraga probably has the strongest geology program.
What are the new
outside
careers
of
that will be
UP.
created by the incipient partnerships with Indonesia, for instance, for processing? Diba? Hindi na nila ma-handle lahat. They want to help get our help. Will there be new courses created as a result of that?
Dito pa lang, Mr. Senator, sa Philippines, kulang na yung supply. The PNOC, when I was Vice President of UP, wanted to give a very big grant to UP, particularly for scholarships for engineering, because the energy sector cannot move very fast because our output of engineers was very low compared to what we need. So we're not even talking about Indonesia. The graduates of geology and mining engineering in the Philippines go to Australia, go to Canada. The demand, even domestic, cannot be met. Ang problema, Mr. Chair, mahirap mag-develop ng very specialized programs like geology, for example. We've instructed UP before to try to work with some of the SUCs to develop geology programs. Medyo manipis kasi yung faculty complement. Mahirap mag-provide ng magagaling na faculty na may PhD kasi kukunti din yung schools na nag-offer ng PhD program. So it's a chicken and egg situation.
Will any constitutional amendment or this constitutional amendment help in that respect?
This is one of the reasons why we're supporting the constitutional amendment, because one of the things that can happen is it will send the signal to foreign universities that the environment in the Philippines is attractive for them to either locate here or work more closely with Philippine universities. What Malaysia did in their Edo City is create a whole zone purely for educational institutions because they wanted to rival Singapore as a transnational capital in the region. But the incentives that they gave is huge. I don't know if we are ready to provide the same incentives or whether that will be the approach that we will take. But in order to attract the UK universities, they offered even the construction of the buildings. That's the volume of incentives they were ready to offer just to attract them to come in. And when I was there and I talked to the rectors of the university, the rector said, even with those incentives, it takes them 5 years to be able to earn a profit. So medyo, of course, the Congress will have to flesh out the law on this, no? But as an initial step, sending the signals that we're open for transnational education to come in, to work with our universities might be a signal that will be very good to upgrade the educational system in the Philippines, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. That's useful. I'm just wondering if the BOT can be used as a framework or a PPP in respect of that, because then at least there's a tangible benefit in the long run for the Philippines rather than just the benefit given short run to the foreigner. Senator Risa has, I think Senator Ontiveros has some questions for Ched and the other resource persons. Go ahead, ma'am.
Salamat, Mr. Chair. Opo, nung nakaraang hearing, nakapagtanong ako ng ilang tanong sa CHED, kasama na tungkol sa Transnational Higher Education Act. Pero meron pa rin akong ilan para sa CHED pa rin. Though before those, yung isang napansin ko po sa mga pagdidig natin so far, Mr. Chair, so many issues and possible solutions are being brought up on the economy and on improving education. But really, none of them seem to require 100% foreign ownership of public utilities or educational institutions for that matter. So just saying lang po. Now to my other questions po for Ched. Article 14, Section 5(2) of the 1987 Constitution states that academic freedom shall be enjoyed in all institutions of higher learning. This includes the right of the school to decide for itself its aims and objectives and how best to attain them, free from outside coercion or interference. HEIs determine who may teach, what may be taught, how it shall teach, and who may be admitted to study. So tama po ba, Chair De Vera, na kung ipasa ang RBH 6, maipapasama sa constitutional protection na ito yung mga dayuhang eskwelahan?
The academic freedom concept is a constitutional requirement. So it will depend on how Congress will flesh out the enabling law. Of course, we want to make sure that academic freedom as a principle is part and parcel of all academic institutions. But academic freedom is also not absolute. There is jurisprudence determining the limits of academic freedom. So I think it will be determined, if ever, the constitutional amendment will happen on how and what kind of law Congress will enact, Mr. Chair.
Fair enough, Chair. Pero so yung foreign private HEIs din, pwedeng mag-grant ng autonomous saka deregulated status. Ibig sabihin, walang CHED monitoring at evaluation. O yung isang Chinese university, malayang ituro yung 10-dash line or kung anong gusto niyang filosofiya at paniniwala sa kabataang Pilipino, pwedeng mag-conduct ng research sa West Philippine Sea for academic purposes. So, at kung questionin, pwedeng sabihin na nilalabag na yung kanilang academic freedom. Paano po kaya yun?
Mr. Chair, in the practice of transnational education in the region, even if significant autonomy is given to foreign schools, the curriculum is still subject to the ministry. They all pass to the ministry for their curriculum. That is the standard practice in Malaysia and in other countries. So there are limits also into how educational institutions will operate. So we can look at the practice. If such a law will be enacted, it would be instructive to see the practices of other countries in the region and learn from it. I do not know of the hard and fast rule that will be applied right now, but there is sufficient lessons from the other countries that we can, or that Congress can study when, if or when it wants to enact an enabling law.
Salamat, Chair. Pero syempre, gayong ang dami nangang at dami pang problema natin, pangangailangan, na nangangailangan ng kalinga ng TED, baka nga mas maigi we look for and implement those solutions that don't require opening up yung dagdag na workload para sa TED in the form of the foreign HEIs yet. At least yung 100% foreign owned pa dito sa Pilipinas. Sunod po tungkol sa kapasidad ng TED na i-perform yung kanyang regulatory authority. So sa ngayon, batay din po sa pag-aaral ng EDCOM 2 na inaabangan po nating lahat yung tabuan, may uneven development and capacities ang ating HEIs at maging ang TED bilang regulatory authority ng mga ito. So posible po ba na gayong limited ang capacity ng ating HEIs at pati ang TED na madedehado yung ating mga lokal na pamantasan kung mabigang daan na yung 100% foreign ownership?
Mr. Chair, kung ipapasa na ng Senado yung TED bill, we will commit, we will have the capacity. Because that is exactly the challenge of TED now. Our workforce is
Pending now in the Senate?
Yes, it's
Sa
pending.
committee or sa plenary?
Sa committee.
Sa committee.
It passed the House already, but it has been in the Senate for some time. The employee complement of TED now is about 50% plantilla and 50% contract of service. We're really operating on contractual basis. In fact,
It's a pre-UACTEA framework, di ba?
yes,
It's a
yes.
pre-UACTEA, pre-K-12 framework,
It
actually.
became worse, Mr. Chair, because of UACTE. All the free higher ed staff in the region are contract of service. I would be the first to admit that it's very difficult because staff turnover can happen. It's difficult to train them because they might leave, etc. So, as I said, while we support the possibility of the constitutional amendment, it will require also a re-examination of the framework for higher education and what are the needed reforms. On its own, pagka nag-constitutional amendment tayo pero hindi naman inamyendahan yung framework ng higher education, it also will not work, the way supporters would push for it, Mr. Chair. We would be the first to admit that kasi hirap kaming mag-implement or mag-regulate dahil talagang manipis ang manpower complement ng TED.
Salamat, Mr. Chair. And again, once Congress can do right or do better by TED, palakihin yung complement ng commission na plantilla, syempre, yung isang approach ay i-prioritize yung mas mahusay na pag-aalaga ng TED sa Filipino at Philippine-owned HEIs bago pa isa pang layer ng mga posibleng 100% foreign-owned. Tapos,
Senator Risa,
yes, of course. And,
just a quick interjection.
Go ahead po.
Yung sinabi ni Chairman Popoy de Vera na passed na sa House and it has been languishing here in the Senate for quite some time. Sabihan ko lang sa iyo na, sabihan lang kita na we are after of quality legislation here. Hindi namin minabadali yung mga batas namin dito. Dahan-dahan lang. Yun lang. Thank you, Senator Risa.
Okay, isa pa
Thank you,
yan.
sir.
Senator Roy. Okay. Sorry. Paano naman po mapapanatili ng ating mga HEIs, lalo na yung binanggit ni Chair kanina na mga centers of excellence, saka centers of development, yung kanilang performance sa sakaling pagpasok ng mga foreign entities na nagpo-provide ng di umano mas mahusay o mas dekalidad na program offerings?
Mr. Chair, siguro ang unang kailangan natin tignan is, can we produce the policy environment conducive so that the top universities all over the world will actually set up shop in the Philippines? I think that's the first one, because we're assuming that they will come here in droves. I'm not sure of that if the incentive mix that we will offer would be enticing compared to the other countries in the region. I think that's the first one. Assuming that the mix of incentives is okay and they come in, it will require significant increase in government investments in higher education institutions for them to become competitive. As it is, our investments in our universities pale in comparison to incentives for or to investment in higher education institutions in other countries. Kaya medyo malakas ang loob ng Malaysia na mag-open up because their support for their 5 national universities is tremendous. All the 5 national universities of Malaysia are ranked higher than UP. Before, UP was higher than almost all of them. Now UP is ranked lower than all of them, all the 5 national universities of Malaysia. When you go there and you look at their facilities, you will be amazed by the level of investment government has been putting. So that will be needed. If we're going to open up, we have to help make our higher education institutions also competitive. We have a lot of very good higher education institutions. What are the indications? Their graduates are acceptable by foreign standards. Our institutions that produce our nurses, our doctors, our physical therapists, they practice all over the world. They're accepted, which means the quality of education is recognized. We have a lot of foreign students studying in Philippine universities. As much as 12,000 Indians at some point were studying medicine in our schools. A lot of Chinese students are doing their masters in PhD in top Philippine universities. But competition, when they come in, we must be able to re-examine and also support our higher education institutions. I can imagine if MSU IIT was given more funds, MSU IIT is ranked in QS Asia. They can be more competitive if we target, support for key universities that can be globally competitive.
I agree, Mr. Chair. And again, investing more in our national universities o sa lahat ng ating SUCs, higher education institutions, wouldn't require constitutional amendment. In fact, nandun na nga sa kasalukuyang konstitusyon, highest budgetary priority for education. Then, at the same time, kaya ba ng TED bantayan at salain ang kalidad ng programang ipapasok ng mga foreign entities kung sakali? O baka naman dumagdag lang sila, yung mga iyon sa diploma mills sa bansa, yung diploma mills na binanggit ni Mr. Lopez kanina.
One strategy, Mr. Chair, is we determine who are the foreign universities that can come in. That is how other countries in the region have also approached it. In the implementing rules and regulations about transnational higher education law crafted by TED, only the top 500 globally recognized universities are allowed to enter into the Philippines. So that is one way of ensuring that if ever we create a positive investment climate, that we get only the good ones. That is a strategy that we have also learned from the other countries in the region, Madam Chair.
With your permission,
Yes,
Senator
Mr. Chair.
Top 500 in the world or in the world po?
Doon sa ranking, because
Yeah.
TED has identified 3
Are
ranking
the
agencies.
Philippine universities in the top 500 in the world? The Philippine universities? Where are we in the top 500? My worry, Dr. De Veris, baka pagka may subject to reciprocity sa ibang bansa, tayo, hindi tayo makapasok doon dahil sabihin nila, hindi kami pinapapasok dyan eh. Hindi rin namin papasukin. Dahil in case wala tayo sa top 500. So I'm wondering, baka yun yung unintended consequence ng ganong klaseng polisiya.
Mr. Chair, depende do sa ranking system. But UP, Lasal, Ateneo, UST, and sino pa isa?
Alam ko top 200 tayo sa Asia, pero sa world parang hindi yata. Nasa 500 something yata yung UP eh. And Ateneo somewhere thereabouts, no? Tama ba, attorney?
And San Carlos.
Ha? 1,000 daw tayo. Top 1,000, okay.
Salamat, Mr. Chair. Okay, well, top 1,000. All right. So we have some way to go. Sa CHED pa rin po, sa Article 6 naman po, Section 28(3), nakasaad na all lands, buildings, and improvements actually directly and exclusively used for religious, charitable, or educational purposes shall be exempt from taxation. So kung ipasa po itong RBH 6, ibig sabihin po ba na yung mga dayuhang HEI exempted na rin sa tax?
Depende po yan dun sa batas na ipapasa ng Kongreso. I wouldn't be able to determine it now, Mr. Chair.
All right, salamat po Mr. Chair. Ang huling tanong ko po para sa CHED ngayong hearing, Mr. Chair. Nag-look into na po ba ang CHED sa pagpo-promote o pagpapalakas sa Transnational Higher Education Act? Na itinanong ko po nung nakaraang hearing, mukhang mahusay na batas at hindi pa talaga na maximize o na optimize ang pag-implementa. Tinitingnan na po ba ang CHED iyon?
Mr. Chair, madami na po nangyari even before the Transnational Education Law was passed. For example, we have a very successful project between Philippines and UK universities where we partnered the Philippines and UK universities to develop niche programs at the master's and doctoral level. And there are 13 master's and doctoral programs jointly offered by Philippines and UK schools, including UP Los Baños with the University of Reading and I think University of Liverpool. Meron na yung mga twinning arrangements, naggawa na po yan, even before the Transnational Higher Education. Yung Transnational Higher Education Law has sent a clearer signal for foreign universities who are interested in the Philippines. So for example, Tamusum College in Victoria in Canada is setting up a campus in Pampanga, I think this year, together with Miriam College, on a joint degree program. Yeah, so it sends a clearer signal. Will that be enough? That is always the question. Can we just depend on it? Yes, we can. We can just depend on it. But compared to the other countries in the region, they will be more attractive for transnational education compared to the Philippines because our policies are more restrictive. So that is medyo pwede pero medyo mahirap. Kakayanin ba? Kakayanin naman, pero compared to the other countries, they will probably have more successful transnational education than us. That would be my answer if the question is, can we just rely on our transnational education law to foster internationalization?
Salamat, Mr. Chair. Of course, sabi nga our policies are more restrictive. Dinedebate pa nga natin yun kung more restrictive nga ba or mas liberal nga ba. At kung polisiya nga yung problema, then as when CHED championed the passage of the Transnational Higher Education Act, then pwede po talaga nating i-approach pa rin yung sitwasyon through legislation. Dahil baka hindi naman lahat ng mga bansang sa ngayon mas matagumpay sa atin sa edukasyon in our region achieve that success because they amended or revised their constitution. Salamat po ng marami, Chair De Vera. Mr. Chair, do I still have time for 2 more questions or sa next round na lang po?
I think Senator Bato has no question, so you have the floor, ma'am.
Salamat, Mr. Chair. Just I think 2 or 3 last questions. Sa someone. Mr. Chair, last question na lang pala. If I may ask Dr. Ledesma Laurel, ma'am, I'd like to ask about your assessment of the current capacity of our educational institutions to develop and offer higher education programs. So, inadequate po ba yung kakayahan ng mga higher education institutions natin na makapag-provide ng access to better higher education?
Right now with technology, even an ordinary classroom in Cotabato, where I come from, can have Harvard professors in the classroom because of technology. We don't have to spend for their accommodation, their fare. Technology has made it easy for global credentials to be available to any ordinary Filipino. And that is the difference between then and now. If you have the will, the political will, you can actually navigate the internet. There are excellent resources in any field. You can be a PhD level in terms of knowledge, and it is available. So right now, Southville Global Education Network, one of our schools, actually has been offering UK degrees and Australian degrees, but it is subject to the management, control, and governance of Filipinos. I think I stressed earlier that with the geopolitical situation, it is very risky to just allow foreign investments to come in education. You know, it's very easy for a country that does not believe in democracy to offer subjects in the name of global education, which may actually be brainwashing and indoctrination of philosophies and policies that are inconsistent with our national ideas. That was our biggest problem when we had offers of partnerships from other countries. The partnerships that we have right now are very streamlined and very well studied in terms of content. And because of the learning management system, we can actually observe what's going on every minute if we want to, in terms of what is being taught. And so therefore, the franchising arrangement has been with us for the last 28 years. And we have had really graduates who have made it in the global arena, in the Philippines and the global arena. And it does not deter any Filipino from franchising with the top universities overseas. So that's our experience. And I think I shared earlier also the perils of having foreign ownership, because they can always relabel the subjects. And so it will pass through filters. But in reality, on a day-to-day basis, can we really see what's going on? One foreign partner, we look at the curriculum, it was a very, very seductive offer. But we just said no because it went against our ideals, and we know the background. We know the background of the people that wanted. So that's our experience. 28 years of transnational education before the TNE policies and standards were crafted by the TESDA, and yet we have had experience of how to invite and how to attract foreign schools that are top in their countries without having to relinquish our control of the curriculum that's taught. And especially at this point, with the very sensitive geopolitical situation, it's very risky.
Salamat, Dr. Ledesma Laurel. I appreciate your emphasis also on at this point, conjunctural. Yung mga bansa na kaalyado o kaibigan natin on may not be that way in their behavior towards us now, o yung mga kaaway natin noon, nakagera pa natin noon ay kaalyado natin yon in the changing matching of national interests of different nations. Kaya importante na updated tayo at saka adaptive din. And you mentioned 28 years na kayo in this field, so it's practically one generation's worth. So medyo solid yung learnings, and they can be, I believe, shared, replicated, scaled up with other educational institutions
Yeah.
in the
Senator
country.
Risa, with
Yes,
your
Mr. Chair.
permission and the
Yes.
permission of Dr. Ledesma.
Version to make it Philippinized, like the cases, we use Philippine cases, even if it's taught by UK university.
Right.
Because that's how to marry both Asia and the West or Europe. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's where the control is very important.
Yeah. With your permission, I just heard a resource person say there are many free resources taught by Harvard professionals, but it's still different from having a Harvard degree, di ba? At the end of the day, you can take as many free courses as you like, but no one will hire you on the basis of the free courses you've taken, di ba? It's still a credentials world. Am I correct? I mean, it will help you in practice, but to get your foot in the door, you still probably need that degree. It's not quite the same thing, no? I agree there's been democratization and that's very important in terms of upskilling, etc. Pero iba pa rin yung may degree, di ba? It's not quite the same. I don't think that's apples to apples. Dr. De Vera, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our representative of Philippine Science High School earlier said that they have a lot of graduates who qualify for American universities, but very few end up going there because of cost. One of the things why we are supporting this initiative is that we can provide additional options to students to pursue their education in foreign universities here. And this can be subsidized by government funds that are more cost effective. My apos are also in a science high school, and they just did a tour of American universities, and they came home and they said we cannot afford it. Madami tayong magagaling na graduate ng science high school so can compete with the best, but their access is limited because they cannot, the foreign institutions cannot set up shop in the
As a rejoinder to that also, Chair, that's a good point. Pero I know a lot of people also who availed of the programs of NUS and I think it's HKUST or some of the Asian universities who partnered with Harvard, Yale, and Northwestern to provide those degrees because they're not as expensive as if you're paying several million to go a year. It's only several 100,000, I think, in the case of the Asian university. So that's right. I agree with you there. It's providing options. That's one of the impetus for filing this actually. So yeah, thank you,
Mr. Chair. Salamat, Mr. Chair. May pangatlong gusto kong i-appreciate na point na binring up ni Dr. Ledesma Laurel. You actually referred to the matter of national security, which was also mentioned in passing in earlier hearings. Alam kasi natin that there are countries that have conducted or are conducting disinformation campaigns or influence operations in other countries around the world to shape or change opinion environments about geopolitical issues, to try to distort narratives. And kung sa social media space, which is a non-formal education setting, ano pa kaya sa formal education setting? Kaya gusto ko lang i-appreciate din yung word of caution that you raised about that. Isa ring dahilan na tama, as many resource persons have said, in our relations with foreign higher education institutions, whether the RBH6 is passed or not, na importante, and it was the experience of other countries as well, selective talaga, and depende sa particular national interest na sinusulong. And in the case of some, time-bound talaga, kaya na-appreciate ko rin yung punto nyo about at this point. So conjunctural din yung approach. Just as last couple of questions to Dr. Ledesma Laurel. Well, but maybe this has been debated on both or more sides around the table, but I had wanted earlier to ask you, why allow the influx of private and foreign providers of higher education when it appears wala naman yung inadequacy and incapacity ng ating mga HEIs. But I guess this has been addressed around the table, Mr. Chair, yung all the improvements and reforms we still want to address. But would maybe as a last question to Dr. Ledesma Laurel, Mr. Chair, would RBH 6 address those concerns, all the problems we want to solve, all the reforms and the improvements, the leveling up that we want to do?
I think the initiative of bringing in foreign, competent, and prestigious universities would be on the area of the context of a globalized economy. If they have, for example, management cases from all around the world, as against only Philippine cases, they would be more prepared to be part of a global scenario and to stand well in terms of global employment. Yeah. And we all know that even if you're in the Philippines, you can actually work globally because now your employer is not only Philippines, but really the global market. So that's the beauty of having foreign universities participate in local institutions. But I would always stress that it is still better that the Filipino looks at the curriculum very closely because the youth is in peril if they're given ideologies at a very young age because their minds are very vulnerable at that point.
Thank you, Dr. Ledesma Laurel. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair. Those are my questions for today.
Thank you very much, Senator Risa. We'd like to acknowledge the presence of Senator Francis Tolentino, the Senate Committee Chair on Justice. Sir, anything from you?
Just listening intently to the question. Probably would butt in along the way.
I think the discussions earlier on science and technology would have interested you very much, being a supporter of the science sector, sir. Anything else around the table? Yes, Chancellor from MSU.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would like to go back to the discussion on the role of educations in generating innovations and that of the industry and academic partnership. One of the things that I think that we need to look into and probably address is the fact that we do not see much of private or industries investing on R&D in higher education institutions. If we compared our universities with our neighboring countries, it seems that much of their R&D income are coming from private sectors, not actually from the government. And I think that's the missing link if we really wanted to strengthen academia and industry partnership. Otherwise, the issue of commercializations of the innovations of university would be very, very difficult. So perhaps the Senate may look into how do we incentivize industries in giving a research grant to universities.
Mr. Chairman, Professor,
That's a good point. Go ahead.
how would you comment on current initiatives as well as ongoing engagements, for instance, by ANSI with the National University, Gongwei Group with the De La Salle University, MVP Group with the San Beda College and even Ateneo? This would probably answer some of your concerns.
Yes, that is precisely what we hope to see more in higher education institutions. But if you see that it's very limited to these higher education institutions, I think we can count, especially in state universities where you really see much of the R&D are coming from private sector.
I'm referring not just to sports development programs, basketball teams, volleyball teams, but the entire R&D hub being supported by various tycoons. Isn't this an ongoing concern?
We need to further encourage that, and I think we need to further come up with programs that I think that this industry would also invest in.
So are you looking at the possibility of foreign business conglomerates entering the Philippines, for instance, Ford Motors, Toyota Motors, investing in Mapua School of Engineering, UP School of Engineering, among others.
Yes,
Is
that's
that-
exactly what we hope to see. Just like, for example, in Japan, in Taiwan, in Singapore, you see corporate laboratories in universities.
With your permission,
Yes.
Senator Tolino, nabanggit niyo yung Toyota. Actually, Toyota, TESDA will confirm this. Toyota put up a training institute, di ba, sa Santa Rosa, which provides more advanced training for our countrymen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But Professor, can't we consider previous engagements, not just by manufacturing firms or big corporations before turn of the century, for instance, Americans, for instance, a big Protestant group investing in Silliman University, or for instance, the group of Belgian priests investing in Notre Dame University in Cotabato City. Aren't these worthwhile investments? Likewise, though not related to your research and development, investments made, for instance, by the Jesuit group, Ateneo. These are investments made in inculcating values, not just religious education, good manners, etc., etc. Isn't that sufficient?
Well, I do agree with the senator. I think that is just one of the areas in terms of value formations. I think in some way or the other, we have also benefited from that kind of indoctrinations. But I think I am looking at it at the economic point of view, where we currently do have barrier to entry in terms of financial investment to higher educations.
So we need more.
Definitely,
We
it
need
would.
more.
It definitely would help.
Not of the same, but of a different value added to our economy. For instance, not just engineering, not just your top of the line technology. So as what the previous, I'm not diagonally located, ma'am, can't see your nameplate, but it's the globalized setting that would require us, following your line of thinking, to open more. And it's not just the investments financially to put up more infrastructure in terms of universities as research hubs, but investments that would upgrade the human mind in terms of uplifting not just the spirit and culture, but how we would be thinking 20 or 30 years from now. Is that what you mean?
I agree, Mr. Senator. Just like, for example, if we can have the Japanese culture, for example, their kind of corporate governance being also put in place, in our environment, we can learn from it. We don't have to benchmark in Japan, but if we have Japanese universities or Singaporean universities in the country, then it would really help also our universities to learn the kind of corporate cultures that these universities embody.
And you're correct, Professor. Speaking of Japanese universities, the Soka Gakkai University system would have wanted to enter the Philippine educational market since I think 30 years ago. Hindi sila makapasok dito. They just put up some cultural centers, but they would have wanted to enter the Philippine educational sphere. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that those contributions, Senator Tolentino. Mr. Santos, I think I was told he's raising his hand. He's online. Mr. Santos, you wanted to contribute to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So maybe if I could just offer another point of view on the benefits of having foreign institutions in the Philippines from the perspective of education tourism. So, of course, when the foreign universities set up campuses here, there is the target of having Filipino students enroll in them. But the other perspective is actually attracting international or foreign students to come to the Philippines, which has been the strategy of Australia. Before the pandemic, the Australian economy, outside of agriculture, number 3 would be its education. And for example, to just give you clearly some numbers, when Malaysia has opened up itself, positioning itself as an education hub, as an alternate to Singapore under education tourism, pre-pandemic, they had 7.2 billion ringgit in revenue from tuition fees and other services. So that's around 85 billion pesos from foreign students. Now, Thailand is beginning to ramp up its educational tourism promotions. So we are very far from their hundreds of thousands of students that are coming. And so, again, just to share that, you know, when you invite these foreign universities, given that they are global universities with very good reputations, it is not only for the local students, the Filipino students, but we will also be attracting international students. And as I said, Thailand is already ramping up its educational tourism promotions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sir Santos. Anything else? If I think everyone's gotten a chance to speak. Any closing remarks? If not, we'd like to thank you for attending today's session, which has been quite productive and informative. And we thank our government officials and resource persons from both public and private sector. Maraming salamat, especially those who came from Mindanao and Los Baños and from further afield. Maraming salamat po sa inyo. Thank you. Thank you.